The school beauty photoshopped everyone's exam ID photos, and I turned a blind eye. When uploading ID photos for the college entrance exam, the school beauty secretly applied heavy beauty filters to everyone's faces. I caught it in time and told our homeroom teacher. We re-uploaded the photos just before the deadline, so everyone was able to take the exam without issue. After the scores came out, the school beauty got a low mark. In her grief and anger, she even chose to jump off a building. I didn't have any bad intentions. I just wanted to play the role of Nuwa for once, so everyone could look their best for the college entrance exams, but someone switched the photos back. I was so upset. That's why I didn't do well on the exam. I'm so angry. My classmates were convinced that I was the one who drove the school beauty to her death. On the very day I went to collect my university acceptance letter, they forcibly dragged me to her gravesite, pressed my head against the tombstone, and beat me to death. Who asked you to meddle? What's the big deal if she changes her photo? We're happy to let her do it. If it weren't for you, she wouldn't have cracked under pressure and lost hope. You should atone with your life. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I discovered the issue with my exam admission photo. This time, I quietly replaced my own photo. I just hope that when I'm barred from entering the college entrance exam, my classmates will still be pleased. 1. Lin Wan, the most beautiful girl in our class, claims to be the goddess Nuwa. She brings all sorts of cosmetics every day, constantly thinking about how to do her makeup and look pretty during and between classes. With her mind never on her studies, she and I are just different kinds of people. I always thought that once the college entrance exams were over, our paths would never cross again, but I never imagined I'd catch her secretly altering the ID photos on everyone's college entrance exam admission tickets. She had edited those photos using a beautifying app, cranking the skin smoothing and whitening filters to the max. All the girls in the class ended up looking identical, and the boys were barely recognizable as human. There was no way photos like that would pass the facial recognition check for the college entrance exam. I immediately told our homeroom teacher. She was horrified and made the whole class re-upload their ID photos before the deadline. Everyone was able to enter the exam hall without a hitch. I saved them. I kept them from missing the most important exam of their lives over something so trivial. After the college entrance exam results came out, Lin Wan, having performed poorly herself and unable to accept the outcome, chose to end her life by jumping off a building. Her final 2 sentences, however, transformed me from the class's savior into the culprit who drove her to her death. I didn't have any ill intentions. I just wanted to play the role of Nuwa for once, so everyone could look their best for the college entrance exam photos, but someone reported it to the teacher. If the teacher hadn't forced us to change the photos back, I wouldn't have been so depressed. I wouldn't have performed poorly because of this. I'm so full of hatred, and so, all my classmates became convinced that I was the one who pushed Lin Wan to her death, acting as self-righteous vigilantes. They dragged me to Lin Wan's grave and slammed my head against the tombstone. I, who was just about to pick up my college acceptance letter and embrace a bright future, was beaten to death by these ungrateful classmates. My head smashed against the stone. The sound of their bitter hatred left a deep impression on me in my final moments. Who asked you to meddle? What's the big deal if she changed her photo? We were fine with it. If it weren't for you, she wouldn't have cracked under pressure and lost hope. You got her killed, so now you pay with your life. When I died in despair, regret, and agony, I never imagined I'd get another chance to open my eyes. I was reborn just before the college entrance exams. The time in the bottom right corner of my computer screen told me I had 40 minutes left before the photo upload deadline. My hand instinctively went to my forehead, where the icy, biting chill of the tombstone seemed to linger. Lin Wan was beside me, still swiping through a photo editing app on her phone. Zoomed in, it showed a face so heavily altered it was unrecognizable. I squinted at it for a long time but couldn't figure out who it was. It wasn't until Lin Wan finished editing, tugged at our class monitor Chen Ming beside her, and shyly showed him her phone screen, that I realized the face in the picture, which looked like a beauty blender, was actually Chen Ming. Chen Ming just smiled, patted Lin Wan's head, and showed no intention of scolding her for the reckless photo editing. They looked at each other, their smiles unbearably sweet. I will never forget the baseless slander Lin Wan hurled at me in our past life, nor can I forget Chen Ming, who led the charge in pinning me down and slamming my head against a tombstone. Now, these two are right in front of me. Lin Wan declares herself a modern-day Nuwa, vowing to beautify everyone's college entrance exam photos. Chen Ming looks on with a doting smile, saying he'll go along with whatever Lin Wan wants. That she can do no wrong. In just 20 minutes, Lin Wan photoshopped everyone's pictures beyond recognition and secretly uploaded them to the system, claiming it was a surprise for the class. This time, having witnessed it all again, I didn't tell a soul. I just quietly edited my own photo. When I opened the photo Lin Wan had secretly altered, I couldn't help but find it ridiculous. On the screen was a face edited into something utterly inhuman, eyes as big as saucers, a chin sharp enough to pierce the screen, skin airbrushed to look like a plastic mannequin, with the whitening filter cranked all the way up. If you cropped a section of it, you could probably convince someone it was a hard-boiled egg. There was even a glaring Xingtu watermark in the corner. Looking at my own photo, I can just imagine how heavily edited everyone else's pictures must be. With a photo like this, there's no way it's going to pass facial recognition. I let out a sigh and looked around, my gaze sweeping over my familiar classmates. In my past life, I went to our homeroom teacher. For these people, pushing them to change their photos right up against the deadline later, for Lin Wan's sake, they smashed my head against a tombstone. I have no obligation to help these ungrateful classmates again. Since they claimed they willingly let Lin Wan alter their photos, then they'll have to bear the consequences of being barred from the exam due to mismatched photos. 2. After the photo submission deadline had passed, Lin Wan stood up and said with a beaming smile, "I actually just edited your photos. I retouched them for you. All the photos in your college entrance exam system were retouched by me. I made all of you look great. For such an important exam, of course everyone should look their best." Instantly, the whole class erupted into a buzz of chatter and discussion. Someone else raised a question: can photos for such an important exam really be edited? Shouldn't they be as authentic as possible? Hearing the doubt directed at her, Lin Wan pursed her lips, looking like she was about to burst into tears. Chen Ming immediately jumped to her defense. "Don't you know how good Wan Wan is at photo editing? Besides, what could possibly go wrong with just one photo? Could you stop being so sensitive? Anyway, the photo's already been uploaded. It's too late to change it now, so what's the point of bringing this up?" That classmate was clearly unconvinced, but Lin Wan's friends talked over her, shutting her down with a barrage of comments. Then, her eyes darted around before finally landing on me. "Lucia, what about you? Do you also think swapping the photo was right?" The college entrance exam is such a serious matter. Secretly editing your picture definitely isn't okay, right? You must also think it would affect our exams, right? She knew I didn't get along well with Lin Wan and Chen Ming. We weren't the same kind of people, and I never kissed up to those two. I'd long been excluded from their social circle. She's pulling this stunt now, asking for my opinion so disingenuously. It's blatantly obvious she's trying to deflect the heat onto me and shift everyone's focus my way. I'm not falling for her trap. For the first time ever, I, who never resorts to these petty games, proactively said, "No, I think it's fine." The moment those words left my mouth, even Chen Ming looked at me with utter astonishment. Lin Wan's eyes lit up. "You think so too?" I smiled as I encouraged her. Of course, for an exam as important as the Gaokao, who wouldn't want their ID photo to look their absolute best? I have full confidence in Lin Wan's photo editing skills. She'll definitely make us all look fantastic. Besides, isn't this something everyone would be happy to do? I used their own words from the past to shut them up. Chen Ming looked at me and smiled with satisfaction. "I never thought Lucia, who's always been so stubborn, would have such a moment of clarity. Wouldn't it have been easier if you'd just done this from the start? Wan Wan has always been our little lucky star. Whatever she does is right. She's just helping us retouch the photos. How could that possibly hurt us? Anyway, it's a done deal now. If anyone still has a problem with it, come talk to me later." The words, "just wait and see how I deal with you," were left unspoken, but everyone could hear the threat in Chen Ming's unfinished sentence. As the class monitor, it was all too easy for him to make trouble for anyone. In my past life, I suffered plenty at his hands. The student who had just voiced opposition now didn't dare say another word. No matter what, she shot me a vicious glare and stamped her foot on the spot, but after Chen Ming swept a single glance her way, her whole body stiffened. Reluctantly, she took a step back into the crowd. I was enjoying this little drama immensely, watching Lin Wan's utterly innocent expression. I almost couldn't hold back a laugh. "Little lucky star. Lin Wan, just you wait and see how this little lucky star ruins the most important exam of your lives." 3. Lin Wan uploaded her photoshopped picture to the class chat group. This chat group was created by Chen Ming, and the teacher is not in it. After that conversation, no one dared to comment on Lin Wan's photoshopped pictures anymore. The class chat was filled with praise for Lin Wan. Wan, you're absolutely amazing. My photo was so awful I couldn't even look at it, but after your edits, I feel like I can use it as my profile picture right away. Oh my god, yes. My face looked so huge in the original photo. After you edited it, it's like I'm a whole new person. Flattered by the praise, Lin Wan replied smugly, listen up, everyone. For the college entrance exams, a good mood is key to doing well, and a gorgeous photo is the first step to a good mood. No need to thank me, just call me Nuwa. Love you all. So, a lot of people started calling her Nuwa. I was the only one who didn't, so I got singled out and tagged. Hey Luja, why aren't you saying anything? Are you unhappy with the photo I edited for you? Your original picture was so unflattering. I went the extra mile to give you a major glow up. Don't tell Mr. Lu about this yet, okay? Let's surprise him. When the exam admission tickets get printed and he sees the whole class looking a whole lot better, he might even praise me. As I read her messages, it suddenly hit me. She genuinely didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with this. Not from the start. After the college entrance exams in my past life, she was in the homeroom teacher's office, crying her eyes out. I just wanted everyone to be happy. I never thought it would affect the exams. Back then, the homeroom teacher went easy on her. Since I intervened in time and no real harm was done, she wasn't held accountable, just had to write a self-criticism. Later, she jumped off a building, and that self-criticism became evidence of coercion. Faced with this kind of choice again, I won't make the same decision I did in my past life, so I replied, if you all think there's no issue with this photo, then there's no issue. I won't tell old Lou. After submission, the Gaokao photos undergo an initial review. At 9:40 p.m., homeroom teacher Mr. Lu posted a notice in the group chat. Photo uploads are now closed. The system is conducting an automatic review. No further modifications will be accepted in principle. Best of luck with your Gaokao. Mr. Lu had no idea the photos had been tampered with. He thought we had all uploaded standard ID photos. In my past life, I was the one who rushed into his office before the deadline and made him order the whole class to change their ID photos back. This time around, I kept my mouth shut, and old Lou never imagined someone would be bold enough to Photoshop such an important picture beyond recognition. So, completely unbeknownst to him, those heavily edited photos were uploaded into the system. After the system showed the initial review had passed, Chen Ming even went straight into the class chat to throw shade at that classmate. I told you it was just a photo, no big deal at all. Some people just love to make a fuss. Someone was kind enough to edit your picture, and you have the nerve to question her. It's a real-life case of the farmer and the viper. I feel bad for Lin Wan. Lin Wan sent a need a hug sticker at just the right moment, and everyone in the comments was comforting her. No one else knew that the initial review was actually fully automated. The system only checked the format and dimensions. There was no facial recognition, the identity verification against the photo ID wouldn't happen until exam day. At the turnstiles of the testing center, so, by the time these people realized they couldn't enter the Gaokao exam hall because the facial recognition failed, it's already too late. For the first day of the Gaokao, June 7th, 7:30 in the morning, a long queue had already formed at the entrance of City No. 1 Middle School's examination venue. A red banner was hung in front of the teaching building, reading, National College Entrance Examination, City A No. 1 Middle School Test Center. Several facial recognition turnstiles were positioned across the school gate, flanked by security guards and examination staff. I was at the very back of the line, clutching my exam admission ticket and ID card, my heart pounding noticeably faster than usual. Lin Wan, standing in front of me, was still bragging to Chen Ming, Chinese is my strongest subject, no doubt. I've prepared a one-size-fits-all essay template that works for any topic. Chen Ming laughed and humored her, praising Lin Wan as the smartest and most amazing, his flattery going straight to her head. The line inched forward. At each turnstile, a candidate would place their ID card on the reader, face the camera, wait for the green light, and walk through as the gate opened. Suddenly, a piercing alarm blared out. 4 red characters flashed on the turnstile screen. Facial mismatch. The first person from our class was stopped. She froze, then tried again. She pressed her ID card against the reader and leaned in close to the camera. The alarm sounded once more, and a red light flashed. What's going on? Why won't the facial recognition work? Her voice began to tremble, the invigilator's expression turned serious. He walked over, glanced at the screen, then looked at the student's face and frowned. Is this admission ticket photo really you? Of course it is, the student said urgently, handing over the ticket. Look, that's me, it's definitely me. The invigilator held the admission ticket up beside her face to compare. The person in the exam admission photo, with a sharp jawline, large eyes, and glowing fair skin, bore almost no resemblance to the girl before her, who had a rounder face and a sallow complexion. The only similarity was the hairstyle. The exam supervisor hesitated, at a loss for words. Well, why don't you step aside for a moment and wait, let the other students behind you go through first. She was led to a small booth nearby. By the time she sat down, her eyes were completely red, and she looked utterly distraught. The line moved forward, a second alarm sounded, then a third, a fourth, and a fifth. For the next 10 minutes, the alarms barely let up. With each new alarm, another person was stopped and escorted to a small booth nearby. The security guards grew tense, and the head of the examination committee came out of the building to see what was happening. Lin Wan's good friend, Zhang Yu, stood frozen in front of the turnstile for a full 30 seconds. The system kept prompting, please face the camera, but each facial recognition attempt returned a no match result. Her exam admission photo showed a sharp, dull-eyed influencer face, while her actual face was at least 2 sizes wider. This was exactly how Zhang Yu usually edited her photos, completely oblivious to the vast gap between her real self and her filtered online persona. Is this stupid machine broken? I look exactly like my photo. What gives you the right to stop me from taking my exam? Zhang Yu yelled at the exam proctor. The exam staff was speechless. Excuse me, are you serious? When was this photo taken? You look nothing like the person in this picture. Zhang Yu felt a little guilty herself and mumbled, what do you mean, nothing like me? I just did a little slimming, some skin smoothing, and a touch of brightening. It's not that different. Now the exam staff understood why they couldn't get into the exam hall. The person in charge said helplessly, listen, there are clear rules for ID photos. Didn't your teacher tell you, the photo must be recent, with no excessive retouching or use of editing software? I didn't edit it much, this is just how I look. Zhang Yu's face flushed bright red. The security guard looked at the photo, then back at Zhang Yu's face. Without a word, he led her over to the small booth to wait as well. 5. The line finally reached Chen Ming. Up until him, not a single person in our class had made it through security smoothly. Even at this point, Chen Ming still hadn't figured out the problem. Instead, he scoffed mockingly, you can't even get past a simple security check. What's wrong with you people? I photoshopped the pictures for you. Who would have thought you'd fail the security check because your real faces are too ugly and don't match the photos? That's absolutely hilarious. The students ahead were already fuming, and seeing Chen Ming's attitude only made them more irritated. Someone shot back. Easy for you to stand there and talk, if you're so tough. Why don't you give it a try? Let's see if your face actually gets you through the door. Chen Ming scoffed. Why would I need to try? I'm the spitting image of my ID photo. It'll work on the first try, no problem. Watch and learn. This is what you call, beep. Facial verification failed. A cold, mechanical voice cut Chen Ming off. Chen Ming stared at the facial recognition machine in disbelief. Must be the wrong expression. Let me try again. Chen Ming made several faces at the facial recognition device. Even pulling a silly one, still wouldn't scan him in. The student who had just been roasted by Chen Ming burst into unrestrained laughter, repeating Chen Ming's own words back at him. Can't even get past a simple security check. What have you become? Someone photoshopped your picture, and who would have thought you'd fail because you're so ugly you don't match the edited photo? That's absolutely hilarious. As soon as he finished speaking, the others joined in with low chuckles. Chen Ming's face instantly turned ashen. Perhaps Lin Wan saw him through rose-colored glasses. Love is blind. When she edited the photo, she didn't hold back at all, transforming Chen Ming, with his face full of acne, into a Korean idol who could debut on the spot just by holding a microphone. Chen Ming was furious. The facial recognition kept failing, and before the invigilator could stop him, he tapped to check the match rate himself. The match rate between him and the photo on his exam admission ticket was a whopping 5%. What the hell is this? Chen Ming held the admission ticket, staring at the photo. Who is this? He turned to look for Lin Wan, but she had just gone to the restroom and wasn't in the line anymore. The pavilion was packed to the brim, with barely any room left to stand. The exam supervisor grabbed the walkie-talkie. his voice strained. This is City No. 1 High School Test Center. We have a significant number of cases where the examinee's identity doesn't match their documentation, requesting instructions. The crowd in line grew restless. Parents pushed their way to the front, loudly confronting the exam staff. Some people began to cry, others were on their phones. I stood in the middle to back of the line, moving forward in silence. Lin Wan arrived late, staring blankly at the people huddled in the pavilion. What's wrong with you all? Why are you crowding over there instead of lining up for the security check? How could she even ask that? Before her classmates could react, the security guard urged Lin Wan to proceed with the facial recognition scan. With a beep, the verification was successful. Lin Wan actually got in using facial recognition. This act undoubtedly sparked collective outrage. So when I smoothly followed right behind using the same method, I barely drew any attention. Everyone was glaring angrily at Lin Wan inside the turnstile, and Lin Wan was stunned. I glanced at the photo on her exam admission ticket. It looked perfectly normal, because I was the one who swapped it for her. A faint smile played on my lips. If I was the only one who could get in using facial recognition, I'd be the sole target for the whole class's frustration. What if they tried to pin the blame on me again? The solution to this problem is actually quite simple. Just change the picture of the person who started the whole thing. 6. Lin Wan stood by the ticket gate, clutching her exam admission ticket, her face deathly pale. She photoshopped everyone in the picture, including herself, but she couldn't figure out why everyone else's exam admission photos looked like her edited versions, except for her own. On picture day, her homeroom teacher had forced her to remove her makeup. The girl in the photo had sallow skin, a far cry from the fair and smooth complexion she had imagined for herself. What's going on? How did this happen? Why does my photo look like this? I edited my own picture too, so why is mine so ugly? Getting into the Gaokao exam hall should have been a cause for celebration, but Lin Wan wasn't feeling grateful at all. Instead, she was on the verge of a meltdown over an unflattering photo. At that moment, I completely lost any desire to talk to her. I was about to head to the exam hall ahead of her when Lin Wan rushed over and grabbed my arm. Didn't I edit photos for the whole class? Why does my picture look like this? And how did you get in? Her pupils contracted sharply. She looked down at her admission ticket, then back up at the turnstile area, which had descended into complete chaos. I smiled, probably because I actually look like my photo, I edited it. Well, you photoshopped everyone's pictures and got them disqualified from the college entrance exam, Lin Wan shouted. What does the exam matter? At least they have nice photos. What about me? I've got nothing. Why is the photo on my admission ticket so hideous? The exam proctor nearby was utterly speechless upon hearing this. Meanwhile, our classmates who couldn't get in just stood there in a daze, their faces etched with pure despair. Some people even broke down in tears on the spot. Furious parents stood outside the facial recognition machines, demanding an explanation from the school. Who on earth is the heartless idiot who edited these photos? Who did this? Are they treating such an important exam as a joke? Lin Wan jolted as if shocked by electricity, then froze completely. It's that girl, it's her. She's the one who photoshopped the pictures for the whole class. Zhang Yu suddenly jumped up, her eyes red, pointing at Lin Wan and shouting, but the scene was too chaotic, and many people didn't catch what she said, and the person in charge of the examination office had no time to deal with this for the moment. The examination team convened an emergency meeting. The principal, the inspector dispatched by the Education Bureau, and the liaison officer from the examination authority were all assembled outside. The identities of all 41 individuals failed the automated verification. There were 25 minutes left until the start of the exam. The exam proctor, sweating profusely, reported the situation. It's the same issue for all of them. Their ID photos have been heavily edited. The facial proportions and contours are too different from their actual appearance, so the system flagged them as non-matching. It seems these students used a photo editing app called Xingtu. The inspector slammed the table in anger, exclaiming, "How could this happen? Weren't the ID photo specifications emphasized repeatedly before the exam? The students made the changes on their own after the deadline," the proctor said with difficulty, "but the system is locked now. We don't have the authority to replace the photos. We need authorization from the Provincial Examination Authority. Authorization from the Provincial Examination Institute requires a process. Submitting an application, verifying the situation, and obtaining approvals at each level." It's now 7:50 a.m., and the staff at the Provincial Examination Institute haven't started work yet. Phone calls were made, one after another. Finally, at 8:10 a.m., the duty supervisor at the Examination Institute made the call: initiate manual verification. The exam staff would conduct a three-way comparison using ID cards, household registration books, and student record photos. Once verified, a temporary entry pass would be signed, allowing admission, but here's the problem: all 41 individuals required manual verification. The examination hall was staffed with only 6 personnel in total. One person passed the manual verification and hurriedly ran into the examination hall. 15 minutes later, a third person got through. Candidates who arrived more than 15 minutes after the exam started were no longer permitted to enter the examination hall. Half of the students still failed the facial recognition check. Even those who managed to get in were completely thrown off by the morning's events and performed terribly on the exam. In nearly every exam room, there were people who broke down in tears halfway through. For the Chinese language exam, half the students were absent, and the other half were completely demoralized. No matter how capable these ungrateful classmates were, it was already too late to turn things around. Failing a core subject in the Gaokao like this caps the total score at 600. For anyone aiming for a top university, it means they're effectively out of the running. This state of mind directly impacted their performance in the subsequent exams. Lin Wan's act of secretly photoshopping and swapping the photo caused everyone except me to fail the exam. 7. On the third day after the college entrance exams ended, the class group chat had gone completely silent. The last message was sent by Lin Wan the day before the exams: everyone, get some rest early and go to the exam refreshed tomorrow. Good luck. There were no replies after that, because after the first day of the Gaokao, no one ever posted anything in that group chat again. Silence itself is a voice, and a powerful one at that. The silence was broken on the night the results were released, not in that original group, but in a newly created one. The group was named Gaokao Photo Rights Defense Group. The group admin was Chen Ming, and the members were all our classmates except for me and Lin Wan. Someone secretly sent me screenshots of the group chat, which is how I found out it even existed. The very first message in the chat was Chen Ming hurling insults at Lin Wan. That bitch Lin Wan, how come she photoshopped pictures for all of us, but then we couldn't get into the exam while she got in? She must have done it on purpose. She ruined our exams. I'm not letting her off the hook. I've already told my parents to contact the media. We're going to expose this whole thing later. I want Lin Wan's reputation completely destroyed. Even Zhang Yu, who was usually closest to Lin Wan, had a change of heart. She screwed us all over. Can't we band together and sue her? Our college entrance exams are ruined. She should at least compensate us, right? How else is she going to make this up to us? And so, the very people who had once claimed they were willingly swapping photos, now that their pictures had actually been changed, began discussing in the group chat how to deal with Lin Wan. Chen Ming, who led the charge in hurting me in my past life, has once again taken the lead in harming Lin Wan this time, while the members of the rights defense group were discussing litigation strategies. Someone suddenly raised a question: have any of you ever wondered why, aside from Lin Wan, Lu Zhou was also unaffected? Oh right, I also remember that Lu Zhou seemed to get in smoothly using facial recognition. Why wasn't he affected? From this point on, the conversation gradually shifted to me. Someone speculated, was his photo not edited? Impossible. Lin Wan said she edited photos for the whole class. Don't you remember? She even mentioned in the group chat that she specifically cranked up the beauty filter settings for Lu Zhou. There's no way he was left out. Then there's only one possibility: Lu Zhou also swapped out his photo. The real question is, how did he know to swap it? I checked the timestamp on Lin Wan's upload. There wasn't much time left before the deadline. When did he make the change? There was a pause in the chat log. Everyone was probably processing this revelation. Then, Chen Ming spoke up. Lu Zhou isn't a victim, he's an accomplice. The fact that he altered his own photo proves he knew Lin Wan's photo could cause the facial recognition to fail. Withholding that information makes him even more despicable than Lin Wan. Exactly. If he had just given us a heads up, even a single message in the group chat, we all could have avoided this. Why didn't he say anything? The group fell silent again, because no one could articulate a concrete reason. They were unaware of the events of their past life. They didn't know that in another timeline, they had killed this man who knew but didn't tell. in the most brutal way, but they weren't entirely wrong. There's another gap in the chat history that follows. This gap coincides exactly with the time Chen Ming sent me a private message. Lucia, got a moment to chat. I really wanted to say I was busy, but Chen Ming just kept on talking. We started a group chat to discuss the college entrance exam photo issue. You're the only one in the whole class, besides Lin Wan who started it all, who wasn't affected. Everyone wants to know why, I said. Because I changed my photo ahead of time. Chen Ming immediately pressed. How did you know you needed to change it? Because I saw the photo Lin Wan edited. The difference from the real person was too big, so I changed it to avoid any issues. There was silence on the other end for a few minutes, followed by a long message. Lucia, I'll be blunt. The current situation is that Lin Wan has ruined things for the whole class. We are the victims, and you're practically a victim too. Your photo was also edited by her. You just caught it in time before it caused any real damage. Since we're all victims here, are you willing to help us testify together? I raised an eyebrow and asked, what do you need from me? Provide a comparison of your original photo and the edited version, and your testimony on why you didn't alert everyone. Even though you clearly knew the photo had been altered, that last part was the key point. Actually, if I hadn't been reborn, aside from Lin Wan, the first person to know she had altered the photo would have been him, Chen Ming, but of course he would never admit it. He has now fully assumed the role of the victim, and the real reason he came to me lies in that last sentence. They don't want my testimony. They want my guilt. They can't stand to see me doing well. So they're determined to nail both Lin Wan and me to the pillory of shame, Lin Wan as the perpetrator, and me as the accomplice who knew but said nothing. 8. In early August, a joint petition appeared at the public complaints window of the Municipal Education Bureau. The letter was an accusation against me. Chen Ming and his group accused me of knowing that the entire class's exam registration photos had been tampered with before the upload deadline for the National College Entrance Exam. They claimed I only replaced my own photo, failing to notify my classmates or report it to the homeroom teacher. This allegedly caused the rest of the class to face issues during the exam due to the photo discrepancy, resulting in irreparable harm. They demanded an investigation into my failure to act, which led to serious consequences, and insisted that a record of serious violation of rules and discipline be placed in my college entrance examination file, along with the cancellation of my exam scores and admission eligibility. Because of that letter, I was summoned to the school for questioning. That morning, 6 people were seated in the school conference room: a deputy division chief from the Education Bureau, the school principal, the vice principal, the academic dean, our homeroom teacher Old Lu, and a young man there to take notes. The principal got straight to the point. Lucia, several students have jointly reported that during the college entrance exam registration period, you were aware that the photos on the entire class's admission tickets had been tampered with, yet you didn't warn anyone. First, tell us, did you know the photos had been altered? I know, I admitted. The meeting room fell silent for a moment. How did you know? I found 2 different photos saved in my album. One of them had a hairstyle that didn't meet the standard. I was worried I might have uploaded the wrong one, so I went back to double check. It was a perfect, utterly flawless excuse. Then why did you only change your own photo, if you discovered your photo had been altered by someone else? Wouldn't you think to ask your classmates if theirs had been tampered with too? If you had asked, this whole incident could have been avoided, the head teacher said with deep regret. I wasn't buying any of it and calmly retorted, but why would I do that? I've never really gotten along with my classmates. They often ignore me, and even when I try to strike up a casual conversation, they might not bother to respond. Plus, I couldn't be sure if everyone's photos had been altered. I thought it was a prank aimed specifically at me. The class monitor, Chen Ming, often leads that kind of thing. If I went and asked the others, and it turned out they all knew my photo had been edited while I was the only one in the dark, wouldn't that just make me look like a fool? I was just protecting myself reasonably before the college entrance exams, trying to keep my mindset from being affected by others. Is that really so wrong? The head teacher was left speechless by my retort. Besides, after we submitted the photos, Lin Wan actually posted what the retouched version of each classmate's photo looked like in the class group chat. Everyone saw their own picture, but not a single person raised a question. Everyone was just saying, thanks, looks great, love it. No one thought there was a problem. If they themselves thought their photos were fine, then why did the problem become mine after the incident? The investigation into me lasted for a week after that day. The final conclusion was that my actions did not constitute a violation of rules no one could prove. That I knew all the classmates' photos had been altered before the submission deadline. 9. Seeing that focusing their fire on me was futile, Chen Ming and the others redirected all their attacks towards Lin Wan. After learning what Lin Wan had done, her father flew into a rage at home. Do you have any idea how big of a mess you've made this time? Over 40 people failed their college entrance exams because of you. Their parents have already filed a joint complaint with the Education Bureau. Everyone's saying old Lin's daughter is a lawless troublemaker who ruins people's futures. How am I supposed to show my face in public anymore? Lin Wan sobbed. I just wanted to help everyone look a little better. Look better. You used that Xingtu app to completely erase their faces. That's not looking better. That's plastic surgery. Did you think this was a beauty pageant? Stung by the words, Lin Wan muttered under her breath. But they all said it looked good. They all thanked me. They thanked you because they had no idea of the consequences. Well, the consequences are here now. See who's thanking you, her father shouted, and with that, he slapped her hard across the face. After that day, she never left her room again. Her mother would leave meals by the door, and sometimes the food remained untouched when she came to collect the dishes. Meanwhile, Chen Ming had completely exposed what Lin Wan had done. An overwhelming wave of online harassment descended upon her. Lin Wan's Weibo account was exposed, and a flood of hateful comments poured into every selfie she had ever posted. A day later, her Weibo account was deleted, and all her profiles were wiped clean. 2 days later, she jumped from the roof of her home. There was no suicide note. Her phone was left on the windowsill, the last page open being the Weibo post full of insults directed at her. She had even liked one of the comments that attacked her. Do you really think you're some kind of goddess? The goddess created humanity out of love, but your photo edits have destroyed dozens of lives. Who do you think you are? 10. Lin Wan's funeral was scheduled for the end of August. Her parents didn't inform anyone, yet, the news still got out. I saw it in the obituary a classmate forwarded. The black and white photo of Lin Wan used her original ID photo, the unedited one, with single eyelids. No unnaturally pale complexion, she was smiling faintly. Honestly, she was quite lovely even without any photo editing. Her parents, though upset with her, couldn't accept her leaving like this, so they turned right around and sued Chen Ming and his whole group in court. Lin Wan's demeanor and browsing history were the clearest evidence of the harm Chen Ming and his cohorts inflicted upon her through their cyberbullying campaign. Later, Chen Ming and others were formally investigated for organizing group cyberbullying that led to the victim's mental breakdown and suicide. They never made it to that summer's remedial class. Instead, they found themselves behind bars. On the day they were sent to prison, I was standing at the registration office of Peking University. The sun was shining brightly, and the campus was filled with new students dragging suitcases and parents seeing them off. A red welcome banner hung down from the top of the teaching building, bearing the words, "Welcome, new students." I stood in a line, holding my letter of admission and ID card. In my past life, when I died, I was clutching that same admission letter. I had arrived at this exact moment from my past life. The only difference is, this time around, I actually made it to my dream university. After finishing the check-in process, I headed to my dorm. My roommates hadn't arrived yet. Alone in the empty 4-person room, I pulled the admission letter from its envelope and laid it out on the desk. Then I took out my phone and opened the photo gallery, unexpectedly stumbling upon a picture. It was a photo Lin Wan had given me. I didn't kill Lin Wan with my own hands. She died by her own naivety, by the cyberbullying campaign orchestrated by Chen Ming and his group, and by this world's backlash against Nuwa. Just then, someone shouted from outside the window, "Freshmen, assemble." I stood up, put my phone in my pocket, and closed the dormitory door. Sunlight streamed in from the end of the corridor, laying a golden path across the floor. I stepped onto that path and walked toward the assembly point. I don't know who I'll become in this lifetime, but I do know, I will no longer try to change anyone else's life. I won't be anyone's savior anymore, nor will I be anyone's executioner. I am just being myself. Story 2. My sister and I transmigrated to the Beastman continent together. Beastmen are classified into 4 tiers, S, A, B, and C. The chieftain gathered all eligible beastmen in the tribe for us to choose from. My sister picked the only A-tier werewolf in the tribe. She bore 5 litters, yet all her offspring were merely B-grade beastmen. The werewolf flew into a rage and severed their mating bond. Other males also refused to take her in, as her whelps were of inferior rank. But I, who chose a B-grade serpent man, delivered 10 precious pups at once, all A-grade specimens. The entire tribe worshipped me as their divine maiden, while the serpent man rightfully inherited the chieftain's throne. Consumed by jealousy, my sister poisoned all 10 of my children before pushing me off a cliff. To my death, when I opened my eyes again, we'd returned to the day of the mate selection ritual. Without hesitation, my sister chose the serpent man. I knew she had reincarnated too, but this time, the child she bore wasn't even C-grade material. When I was reborn, my sister was already snuggled in the serpent folk's arms. Chieftain, I choose Jade. With that, she shot me a challenging glance, her eyes flashing with absolute confidence. By our second month in this world, my sister and I had fully deciphered the survival rules of the beast man. Continent, male beast men are born into 4 distinct ranks, S, A, B, and C. The higher the rank, the more noble the male beast man is considered. Class C orcs are the most common, Class B are considered valuable, while Class A can be deemed rare. As for Class S, even the aged chieftain has never laid eyes on one. Female orcs are outnumbered by males here, though reliant on male protection. They hold higher social standing. A female's status rises solely through childbearing. The higher the rank of the offspring, the more elevated the female's status becomes. In my past life, my sister was determined to become the tribe's top female and unhesitatingly chose the only A-rank werewolf in the clan, but fearing the pain, she convinced me to pick a serpent mate instead. Snakes may have double the equipment, but they lay eggs, and pushing out eggs is way easier than pushing out babies. I took her advice and chose the serpent-kin Jade. Shortly after bonding with Jade, I became pregnant. Not only did I deliver 10 at once, each was a Class A beastkin. In this century-old tribe, we've never had more than 5 Class A beastkin at any given time. The chieftain immediately proclaimed Jade as the next tribal leader, yet my sister, who conceived around the same time, gave birth to only a B-grade beastkin. Refusing to accept this, she went on to bear 4 more children. Each was either B-grade or C-grade. I realized she had been reborn too. My sister blamed the werewolf genes and sneaked into the snake man's bed at midnight. To my surprise, the snake man remained utterly loyal. He not only kicked her off the bed but summoned the entire tribe to clear his name. The werewolf flew into a rage upon hearing this and immediately severed their partnership. Her children were banished from the tribe along with her. Without male protection, females struggle to survive in this place. Within a month, my sister's children all starved to death. During that time, my sister considered bonding with C-grade beast men to rejoin the tribe. Surprisingly, despite their primitive lifestyle, they strongly disapproved of an unfaithful female like my sister, willing to bed her, but not to wed her. When my sister was starving, I took her back to the cave out of kinship. I shared my meat with her in kindness, yet she envied my standing in the tribe. She not only wrenched off my 10 serpent head trophies before the crowd, but also shoved me off the cliff. The weightless sensation of that fall still lingers on my body. The pain in my heart cuts deeper than any physical wound. After my sister made her choice, the chieftain gestured for me to take my turn. I scanned the remaining orcs before pointing at the werewolf. I want to choose. Smack, a slap landed across my face. You bitch, how dare you steal my man? The visitor was the female from the Black Tiger tribe. She furiously accused me of seducing her mate and demanded an explanation. I was stunned. There's nothing between me and Black Tiger, still denying it. She threw a tuft of fur on the ground. This is yours, isn't it? Found it on our bed. My true form is a white rabbit. The fur on the ground is rabbit fur. But even so, that doesn't prove I'm involved with Black Tiger. After all, I'm not the only rabbit in the tribe. I was about to defend myself when my younger sister suddenly stepped forward and gasped, Sis, so that's why I saw you walking with brother Black Tiger that night. How could you seduce a mated beast man? Her outburst might as well have been a death sentence for me. The other beast men who'd been strutting around me immediately backed away like I had the plague. The werewolf in particular, his previously smug grin vanished as his brows furrowed in displeasure. I stared at my sister in disbelief. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. Suddenly I remembered, in our past life, my sister had a fling with this Black Tiger. It dawned on me. This was my sister's trap all along. I protested my innocence. I didn't mess around with Black Tiger, and this isn't my fur. If you don't believe me, I can turn into a rabbit to prove it. I immediately reverted to my true form. I wanted to give everyone a full 360-degree view to show there wasn't a single patch of missing fur on my body, yet right there on my thigh, I actually had a bald spot. With both witnesses and evidence presented, the orcs were in an uproar. We'd been fooled by her. When treating orcs before, She'd blush at the mere sight of undressing. I truly thought she was pure. How could such a shameless female seduce another's mate? This kind of orc deserves banishment from the tribe. The murmurs grew louder. The chieftain had no choice but to step in and mediate. Both males and females in the tribe were fiercely possessive of their mates, making my presence intolerable as a female who might seduce other males. With a wave of his hand, the chieftain banished me from the tribe. My younger sister came to see me off when I left. She clung to the serpent folk's embrace while comforting me. Sister, being cast out might be a blessing in disguise. There are many powerful beast folk out there. Perhaps you'll meet your destined mate. Such hollow words. The wilderness does teem with formidable beast folk, but they're all outcasts abandoned by their own tribes. Complete lunatics. They devour both wild beasts and fellow beastmen alike. For a female like me, leaving the tribe's protection is practically suicide. In our past life, my younger sister nearly died several times outside. Each time I saved her. To think she'd show no familial loyalty. After rebirth, she not only stole my husband but also tried to banish me from the tribe. I scoffed coldly. Thanks for the concern, dear sister, but you'd better tend to your own affairs. Jade's vigorous. Best fortify yourself. Wouldn't want to disappoint him. Jade is a serpent folk, just as my sister said. Serpents are lustful by nature. He had little interest in hunting, being utterly obsessed with bedroom affairs. Twice or thrice a day brings pleasure, but days on end becomes torment for any female. Jade took particular brutality to these matters, treating tenderness like a foreign language. Jade played the saint yet nursed constant suspicion. If I can't satisfy him, he'll go sniffing around for other lone females outside. Yet when females from our own tribe approach him secretly, he suddenly plays the righteous gentleman. The truth is he's utterly useless. Couldn't even hunt meat if he left the tribe. Just thinking about it makes my scalp crawl and my whole body ache. Little sister thought she'd gotten some treasure, not realizing Jade was rotten to the core. Hope, you've been exiled from the tribe. What's there to gloat about? My sister's face turned icy as she spat. This lifetime, I'll make sure you watch me become the tribe's chosen priestess with your own eyes. With that, she eagerly followed the snake man back to their cave. Their lewd laughter reached my ears, making my skin crawl with disgust. I'd just left the tribe when I encountered a leopard. Before she could finish speaking, the moment he saw I was female, he pounced. His eyes burned with lust and murderous intent. I knew how rogue beast men like him loved to toy with females, breaking them before killing. Survival instinct sent me sprinting for my life. As I ran, a cave suddenly appeared before me, with nowhere else to go. I dashed into the cave. Miraculously, the leopard stopped chasing the moment I entered. He paced back and forth at the doorway, then cursed under his breath when I refused to come out before storming off. I soon discovered why the leopard had left. Just as I took a few more steps into the cave, a thunderous lion's roar froze me in my tracks. Looking up, I found myself face to face with a magnificent white lion. He had a huge mouth, big enough to swallow my head whole. I turned and ran again. After a few steps, something felt off. The white lion merely roared without even attempting to rise, as if its only purpose was to frighten me, until I caught a whiff of decay and saw the festering wound on its leg. Only then did I realize this lion was injured. Steadying myself, I spoke up first. Hello, are you hurt? I can help with that. Would you let me stay? The white lion seemed to understand me. After sizing me up, it actually extended both hind legs toward me. The wounds were severe, crawling with clusters of white maggots, fighting back nausea. I carefully removed all the maggots, took out the medicinal powder from the bag. Before crossing over, I studied traditional Chinese medicine. After arriving, I became the tribe's shaman thanks to these skills. I've treated many beast folks' injuries, yet when it mattered most, not a single soul spoke up for me. The thought of it chilled me to the bone. After tending to the white lion's wounds, the murderous aura around him instantly dissipated. It nuzzled against my clothes in gratitude. Just then, I heard its stomach growl twice. Must be injured and unable to move. Hasn't even eaten. I'll go find some food. Wait for me. With that, I turned to leave. He hooked me back with his paw. A massive tongue licked over my body. I knew this was his way of marking me. With his scent on me, most predators wouldn't dare attack. Remembering the fleeing leopard, I realized this white lion must be high-ranking to command such intimidating presence. After leaving the cave, I didn't venture far, just gathered some wild berries nearby. Night had fallen by the time I returned. I pulled the tinder from my cloak and lit a fire. The white lion's eyes gleamed as it edged closer to the flames. I ended up staying in that cave from then on. During the day, I'd tend to the lion's wounds and venture out for water and food. At night he became my blanket and quilt as we slept together. This went on for nearly half a month. When I returned from another outing, the sight before me left me stunned. There lay a man with snow-white hair and golden pupils. A pair of lion ears twitched gently atop its head as it noticed me. "You're back." Its voice was even more melodious than I imagined. My heart raced as I blurted out, "Are you the white lion?" The white lion nodded. "My name is Leander." I smiled. "Hello, I'm Hope. Under my care, Leander has regained the ability to walk, though still unable to make sudden movements. Yet on our first hunt together, he showed me what true ferocity looked like. A wild boar. He bit clean through its neck in under a minute. That night, I finally tasted meat after what felt like ages, the sizzling pork belly filled the air with its mouth-watering aroma. With my mouth still greasy from eating, I asked Leander if he was an A-rank beast man given how formidable he was. Leander's eyes darkened as he replied, "No, I'm unranked. Every male beast man in this world has a rank. How could he possibly be ungraded, judging by his strength? Even the werewolves in our tribe wouldn't stand a chance against him." Leander shook his head, insisting he simply didn't have it. That's why the tribe saw him as a monster and cast him out as a child. The memory clearly pained Leander. His eyes clouded with sorrow as he spoke. Exiled from his tribe since childhood, he grew up without family or friends. Who knows how much hardship you've endured to become this strong? I patted his head gently. "It's all right now. You've got me. We'll be friends from now on." Leander suddenly flushed crimson. Another month passed, and Leander made a full recovery. Winter was approaching. To prepare for the harsh season, Leander and I worked from dawn till dusk every day. He hunted while I gathered wild berries and medicinal herbs. Each day brought bountiful harvests. Just when I thought life would continue peacefully like this, Leander went into heat. That morning I woke up late, and the moment I opened my eyes, I could feel Leander's burning body, with bloodshot eyes and ragged breath. He told me to stay in the cave for the next couple of days. He had to leave for something, but he'd barely taken 2 steps before his legs gave out and he collapsed. The fall revealed his prominent bulge. In that instant, everything became clear. Every orc has regular mating seasons. The beast within is stronger than human reason these days. Though he'd reached his limit, seeing me frozen in fear, he still comforted me. "Don't be afraid. I won't touch you. I'll take care of this myself." Restraint is a battle against one's own body. Veins bulged across Leander's scalp as a guttural growl escaped his throat. Seeing him like this, my heart ached. I stepped forward and crouched down. "Leander, do you despise me? What? How could I?" I cupped that face in my hands and kissed it. I still felt a pang of fear when Leander's hand touched me. My experiences with Jade in this regard during my past life were far from pleasant. He was always rough. I never felt any pleasure, only what seemed like pure torture. Leander was so much stronger than Jade, and I feared he'd be the same way. I was mentally prepared, yet I felt no physical pain whatsoever. Leander's touch was as gentle as his fur, making me feel like I was floating on clouds. I lost track of how long I'd been lost in the moment before regaining awareness of the outside world. The snow had already begun to fall. With Leander around, I had the warmest winter. He'd keep the cave toasty warm, gathering firewood whenever we ran low. At night, he'd wrap me in his warm fur. Ever since that incident, he's been getting a bit too excited. One fleeting eye contact and I'd find myself pinned to the bed. Thankfully he's skilled. I never minded it one bit. So reckless, and without any protection. I soon realized something was different with my body. I checked my pulse. Sure enough, I was pregnant. When I broke the news to Leander, his eyes widened. A few seconds later, his ears and tail began wagging in unison. "Really?" His calloused hand caressed my belly. "Are you really carrying my little lion cub?" He lifted me high into the air. I laughed along with him. After learning about my pregnancy, Leander spoiled me rotten. He stayed by my side every single moment. He insisted on doing everything for me personally. Nestled in his warm embrace, memories of my past life came flooding back. Jade is a serpent folk. Being cold-blooded, he couldn't provide warmth in winter. Worse yet, he'd hibernate, while other males ensured their mates had plentiful food. I had to scavenge through blizzards for scraps. Fortunately, I knew some basic medicine back then. When treating orcs, they'd spare me some scraps. Even so, with 10 snakelets to feed, those meager provisions became practically invisible. Jade's an adult serpent. She can hibernate and live off her fat reserves. The hatchlings are still young and need constant feeding. For their sake, I occasionally venture outside the tribe, but as a fragile rabbit, I don't dare wander too far, just gathering field mice or wild berries to bring back. Thankfully, All 10 snake babies are well-behaved and sensible even as an A-rank beast man. He never picks fights or stirs up trouble, he often helps me with household chores too. My eyes well up thinking about those 10 adorable little ones. I failed in my duty as a mother to protect them properly. In that moment of sorrow, a warm embrace enveloped me again. Leander held me tight. Hope, what's bothering you? 3. Nothing's wrong. I wiped the tears from my eyes. Just feeling a bit homesick. Leander mumbled. Aren't you happy being with me? No, that's not it. I stroked his hair. Being with you is wonderful. I could tell my words had affected him. So I casually changed the subject to move past it. I never thought I'd see my sister again in this lifetime. To my surprise, my sister showed up at my cave that very night. Leander heard the sound of someone stealing, and after he went out to check, I heard a familiar cry. When I stepped outside, I saw my sister kneeling on the ground trembling, her belly swollen with pregnancy. Lord White Lion, please spare my life. Seeing her pitiful state, I couldn't help but chuckle. She looked up, frowning. Hope, what are you doing here? Leander asked me. Do you two know each other? I shook my head. No. Murderous intent flashed in Leander's eyes, terrified by his razor-sharp claws. My sister screamed, Sis, don't let him kill me. I came all this way to save you. That sister call successfully saved the younger sister. Leander retracted his claws and asked if there was some misunderstanding. I sighed and walked up to my younger sister. What brings you here? My sister put on an ingratiating smile. I've pleaded with the chieftain, and he agreed to let you return to the tribe. Seeing I remained unmoved, she continued earnestly, It's true, sis, our tribe's clashing with another, war's about to break out, this place will become a battlefield soon, since you two don't belong to either side, you'll just be cannon fodder. Her words reminded me there had indeed been a war in my past life. Beastkin are straightforward by nature, with an intense possessive instinct over both mates and territory. This often leads to territorial conflicts between tribes, but the war ultimately ended when my 10 snake hatchlings emerged. After all, Grade A beastkin are formidable warriors. Producing 10 at once completely intimidated the Ura tribe. They voluntarily surrendered, merging the two tribes into one. The Ula tribe had a formidable shaman. It was he who proclaimed my extraordinary destiny, declaring me the beast god's chosen priestess for our tribe. But my sister's counsel, I had no intention of heeding. Leander and I are perfectly content with our life together. There's no need to return to the tribe. I refused point blank. My sister saw right through me. Sis, you're pregnant, aren't you? Even if you won't think for yourself, think for the child. You two may enjoy wandering now, but surely not forever. You may feel free leaving the tribe behind, but what future will your child have? Her words struck a chord deep within me. In this dog-eat-dog world, even a formidable creature like Leander nearly met his end in that cave. What are we going to do when the baby comes? But Leander was once cast out by his own tribe. Would he really want to return to that kind of environment? I looked at Leander, and he seemed to read my thoughts. Come hold my hand. Hope, let's head back then. After I agreed to my sister's request, she let out a relieved sigh and asked, Sis, got anything to eat? My little sister devoured the food like she hadn't eaten in centuries. Her belly is swollen, yet her limbs remain slender. She must have endured great hardship these days. Then again, Jade's most likely begun hibernating by now. That lazybones wouldn't risk venturing out unless driven to desperation. After finishing the meal, my sister lay resting in the cave outside. As usual, Leander cradled me in his arms. My sister glanced over with unmistakable envy in her eyes. In the middle of the night, I got up to use the bathroom. I heard my sister curse behind my back. Damn it, how does she still live so lavishly in this lifetime? What's there to flaunt about marrying some low-born bastard without even a proper rank? She caressed her belly, whispering, Be good now, little ones, come out quickly so mommy won't have to endure this humiliation anymore. To this day, I still can't figure out where my sister's hostility toward me comes from. We're twins. Before we crossed over, our parents died in a car accident. We were left with only each other to rely on. I've always remembered my parents' teachings. They said as the older sister, I must take good care of my little sister, so I always gave way to her in everything. Little did I know that one act of kindness would become an expectation in my sister's eyes. I'm apparently supposed to give her everything good in this world. I might as well be her personal servant. I don't deserve anything nice. On my third day back in the tribe, I finally understood why my sister went through such lengths to bring me home. Her due date was approaching, and she feared dying in childbirth. She wanted me to help deliver the baby safely. After all, in our past life, She had 5 pregnancies with 3 difficult deliveries, all of which I assisted. Another reason was that she wanted me to witness her giving birth to 10 A-grade beastkin with my own eyes. I watched her climb step by step to the highest position in the tribe. Life back in the tribe wasn't easy, even though I brought Leander back. Many females still held hostility toward me. They didn't want me near their beast men, so I had no choice but to stay alone in the cave. I was ostracized. My sister, however, leveraged her past life memories to foresee major tribal events and weather patterns, earning high status among our people through her accurate predictions. She proclaimed herself as the divine maiden sent by the beast god, claiming to carry only A-grade beastkin offspring. All beastkin believed her without question until the war broke out. Leander joined the battlefield as well. Everyone discovered his bite force surpassed even Class A werewolves, and his strength far exceeded theirs. In this place, strength determines everything, yet Leander's brilliance left him unrecognized by any ranking system. The werewolves grew envious and rallied other tribesmen to bully him. They abandoned him to face the Yura tribe's traps alone. As he charged the enemy, the werewolves fled with the others. I only learned about this after Leander got seriously injured. Furious, I wanted to confront the chief for justice. It's nothing, Hope, Leander said nonchalantly. Even like this, those guys were no match for me. See, I came back in one piece. Tears welled up as I looked at his wounds. I'm sorry, Leander, I shouldn't have brought you back here. This place isn't for you. Let's return to our cave. No, Hope, Leander pleaded urgently. If we go back to the cave, you'll start missing home again. Let's stay here. As long as you and the child are safe, I don't mind enduring these people's mistreatment. My heart suddenly ached with sorrow. I remembered the words we'd exchanged in the cave that day, so he treasured every word I'd ever said. When I said I missed home, he thought I meant the tribe. I shook my head. You're my family now. Let's return to our cave and live our simple life together. Right after I convinced Leander to leave with me, before we could pack our things, a female came running with news. Hope, go check on your sister immediately. She's going into labor. As I reached the entrance of my sister's cave, agonized screams pierced the air. I froze. Stepping inside, I was met with a pool of blood, an exact replay of her first traumatic childbirth in our past life. Back then, it was because the werewolf father's massive size resulted in an oversized baby. The baby's head got stuck in the birth canal, causing a difficult delivery. But snake people's eggs should be tiny and pass through easily. I soon discovered the reason. After helping my sister deliver 10 eggs, I was shocked to find more still inside. Just about to reach for it, my sister suddenly started convulsing. Oh no, she's having a seizure, I shouted, but hardly anyone knew what a seizure was. Only after my frantic shouting did they finally find a stone to wedge into my sister's mouth, preventing her from biting her own tongue. Seizing the opportunity, I scooped out all the remaining eggs. Counting them, there were 20 in total. After the extraction, my sister passed out cold. I fed her the herbal decoction and told Jade, if she makes it through tonight, she'll live. If not, well, that's that. After I finished explaining, Jade grabbed my hand to stop me from leaving. She's your sister, you should stay and take care of her. I always knew he was lazy and selfish. Who'd have thought he'd refuse to stand guard for one night when lives were at stake? I snapped. She's your mate, not mine. I won't take responsibility for her. Given how my sister treated me, saving her was more than she deserved. Emerging from my sister's cave, I felt a wave of exhaustion. Looking up, I saw Leander standing there. My heart ached for him instantly. Why did you come? With such severe injuries, you should be resting in the cave. He pulled me into his arms completely. Every voice was hoarse. Hope, let's stay here. We're not leaving. Just as I was about to ask why, I felt something wet on my shoulder. I dragged Leander back to the cave, but when I pressed him for answers, he only cried harder. Only then did I realize Leander had heard everything outside his sister's cave. He never knew childbirth could be such a terrifying ordeal for females. He was afraid to take me back, worried no one could save me if I went into labor. Tears welled up in my eyes. Leander, not all births are as difficult as Athena's. Mine might be perfectly smooth. Then I won't leave either. Leander insisted. Even if there's just a 1% chance, I won't let you suffer. This incident hit Leander pretty hard. He was terrified something might happen during my delivery. With no one to help, became insignificant within the tribe. He'd share the hunt's bounty with everyone. He'd just smile whenever someone bullied him. Free-spirited Leander only did such things for my sake. My heart swelled with bittersweet emotions. What cosmic luck brought such a magnificent male into my life? My younger sister woke up the next day. Snake eggs take time to hatch. My sister kept vigil over the eggs daily, dragging most of the tribe's beast folk to come see them. He claimed all 20-something of them were Class A serpent folk. Everyone thought she was eccentric, yet they wholeheartedly believed her due to her previous accurate prophecies. In no time, the younger sister's status rose even higher. The war ended abruptly because Leander fought too fiercely on the battlefield. The Ura tribe sent envoys to sue for peace, offering to merge with our tribe. Before negotiations concluded that day, their chieftain and shaman arrived together. Someone burst in excitedly shouting, "Chief, come quick, Jade's 20 snake eggs are hatching." At those words, all interest in territorial discussions vanished. Even the Ura tribe had heard about it. The Wua tribe had a priestess who gave birth to 20 elite serpent warriors. Everyone swarmed to the sisters' cave. By then, most of the tribal beast folk had arrived. The cave was packed to capacity. The chieftain had to squeeze his way in. Just as he entered, the first serpent person was hatching. It was a small black serpent. Emerging from the chamber, the younger sister carefully cradled the creature for the chieftain's evaluation. "Chief, look quickly. Could this be a Class A serpent folk?" The chieftain gave it a glance, hesitated briefly, then spoke his verdict. "Not Class A, this is Class C." Her sister's smile froze on her face. She flared up in anger. "How could that be, Chief? You must be mistaken. Would you kindly take another look?" The chief had 60 years of experience. Judging quality wasn't just about seeing, he could practically smell the difference. For out of courtesy, he took another glance. "It's definitely Class C, no mistake about it." Her younger sister froze in shock. The crowd immediately buzzed with murmurs. "What's going on? Weren't they all supposed to be Class A? 20 is way too many. In all these years, our tribe only ever had one A-rank werewolf. Having some C ranks in the batch is perfectly normal. Who knows, the rest might all be A ranks." These words comforted the younger sister. She planted her hands on her hips. "Exactly. This is just the first one. I've got a feeling at least 10 of these 20 eggs will hatch something special." No sooner had she spoken than 3 more eggs cracked open. "As far as the eye can see, all C grade." Little sister didn't mind. "The strongest always hatch last." Clap clap clap. Another 5 eggs. "There's a B grade one inside." This gave little sister confidence. "Told you it gets better towards the end." But no one believed her words now. Everyone's expressions shifted, no longer anticipating high-tier orcs, but rather looking at a joke. Until all 20 eggs had hatched, not only was there no A rank orc in sight, aside from 1 B rank and 10 C ranks, several didn't even qualify for grading. The chieftain took one look and declared these wouldn't last long. The younger sister broke down. "How is this possible? My A-grade serpent offspring. Someone must have tampered with them." Someone couldn't hold back. "Tamper how? Jade's just a B-grade serpent. How could he sire A-grade offspring with you? Just because you can predict the weather for 2 days, you think you're some divine priestess now." After becoming the priestess, the younger sister tyrannized the tribe. Some people had long been fed up with this. One voice sparked 1,000 echoes. They mocked the girl for chasing pipe dreams, mistaking a snake's egg for golden treasure. Just then, the girl's gaze fell upon me, the silent observer in the crowd. She grabbed my arm without warning. "It's you." Her eyes reddened with fury. "You're the one who swapped my egg. This is all you're doing. You can't stand to see me happy. Give me back my egg." I shook off her hand and said coldly, "Athena, stop this madness. First you accused me of adultery, now you're accusing me of stealing your child. Let me remind you, I wasn't the only midwife present that day. Many witnesses can prove I took no child." Perhaps my sister's attitude was too arrogant. Perhaps everyone has been benefiting from Leander's kindness lately. All the females who assisted in the delivery stood up for her. "Exactly, we all saw it. Hope didn't do anything wrong. Besides, why would she steal your egg when she's already carrying her own child?" Everyone was talking over each other. It completely enraged my sister. "Why are they all taking your side now? Drop dead, Hope." She charged straight at me before I could dodge, knocked to the ground by her. Leander instantly went berserk, transforming into a white lion and pinning them down. With a ferocious roar, it gaped its maw wide to devour the younger sister, but hadn't taken the first bite yet. Someone shouted from behind, "Leander, carry your mate back to the cave now. She's going into labor." The next instant, I was swept into warm arms. Leander rushed me back to the cave without a moment's delay. Throughout the delivery, he held my hand tightly with a furrowed brow. He kept reassuring me not to be afraid, yet his hands were trembling even more than mine. Thankfully everything went smoothly. Within 2 hours, I successfully gave birth to 2 white lion cubs. These cubs are absolutely beautiful and so strong, said the midwife as she cleaned them, with such vitality, they might even be A-grade beast men. Let the chieftain have a look. I instinctively reached out to stop her. Leander and I had already agreed. As long as our children are healthy, we don't care about their grade. After all, that's exactly why Leander got exiled from his tribe. I'm afraid he might be traumatized. But before I could stop them, the chieftain and the Yura tribe shaman entered. The chieftain took the white lion cub and frowned. This cub's so spirited, yet it has no rank at all. I glanced at Leander. His face was mostly expressionless, but I caught a flicker of fear. I grabbed his hand and reassured him, "It's okay." Little did I know, the moment those words left my mouth, the Yura tribe priest exclaimed, "Are you blind? This is clearly an S-rank beast man." "What? S-rank? You mean the S-rank? Oh my gods. I knew this white lion cub was different from ordinary beast man children. I actually delivered an S-rank beast man. Our tribe actually has S-rank beast men now, and 2 of them. Everyone burst into cheers. Leander and I stared at each other in disbelief. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect this outcome. The news spread like wildfire through the tribe, and my younger sister pushed her way through the crowd. The sight of 2 beautiful white lion cubs, known as S-rank specimens, sent everyone into a frenzy. "This can't be real," the sister shrieked. "Hope, how could you possibly bear S-rank beast men with him? He doesn't even have a rank. You've been cheating again, haven't you?" Under the sister's accusation, as the initial excitement subsided, everyone gradually realized Leander was actually an unranked beast man. Their eyes turned scornful as they looked at me again. Before the accusations could fly, Priest Ula stepped forward. "Leander has no rank," he shouted. "Impossible. He's clearly an S-class white lion." The moment these words were spoken, the entire hall erupted in uproar. The shaman Ula explained that they surrendered after witnessing the power of Leander, an S-ranked beast man. During that ambush, with such a beast man in their tribe, victory was impossible for them. Only then did everyone realize that ordinary beast men never encounter S-ranked ones. Not even the chieftain had seen one before. That's why he couldn't make the call. Leander never imagined that his years of self-doubt stemmed from others' utter blindness to his worth. After speaking, Priest Ula studied me intently once more. He immediately announced to the crowd, "This female bears an extraordinary destiny. If my judgment holds, she's the reincarnation of a goddess." This revelation caused even greater shock than declaring Leander an S-ranked beast man. The crowd fell silent for a moment before dropping to their knees in unison. "It's truly the goddess, goddess, goddess." The exact same scene from the previous life unfolded once more. In my past life, people remained skeptical about me being the divine maiden, but now, with 3 S-ranked beast men by my side, their doubts vanished completely. My sister couldn't accept this truth, ranting like a madwoman that everyone was blind. She was the real divine maiden. Have you forgotten her infidelity? How could a divine maiden have such disgraceful conduct? Her reminder brought back memories of how I was banished from the tribe. I straightened up and stared straight at her. "Athena, even now you still slander me." I turned to Black Tiger in the crowd. "Black Tiger, will you still not speak the truth?" Black Tiger still wanted to remain part of the tribe. Under Leander's coercion, he finally admitted that his previous slander against me was instigated by his sister. He stole a lock of my hair and agreed to act in his sister's scheme. His sister promised to sleep with him. Thus, the truth came to light. It wasn't me who cheated. It was my sister. The serpent man's face paled with possessive rage. "Athena," he hissed, "how dare you betray me? My sister had witnessed Jade's cruel methods these past days. Her legs gave way in terror. "No, Jade, don't listen to their lies. I'd never betray you. Please don't." In the blink of an eye, Jade reverted to her true form and clamped her jaws around the younger sister's neck, vanishing in a puff of smoke. Days later, villagers found the mauled sister's body beyond the tribal borders. Half her face had been gnawed away. Only the clothing on her body could identify her. Word spread through the tribe that Jade had killed his mate. The chief succumbed to pressure and banished him. Children represent hope. Despite what my sister and Jade did, everyone still accepted those serpent babies. The females gathered all the younglings to raise them together. Meanwhile, the male beastmen began expanding their territory under Leander's leadership. Day after day, year after year, in the new springtime, Leander was elevated to the position of tribal chieftain. I once again became the chieftain's wife. Our 2 little white lions are growing stronger every day. The end. Story 2. Before the spring festival, I received a rather substantial severance payment. I bought a large quantity of food ingredients and New Year's goods, planning to let my family have a happy and wonderful spring festival. However, my mother-in-law scolded me for being wasteful, and my husband also complained that I didn't understand how hard he worked to earn money. I had a big quarrel with them and planned to go back to my parents' home for the spring festival unexpectedly. There was a zombie outbreak, and I was trapped at home. Just as I was rejoiced that I had stocked up a lot of supplies, my mother-in-law and husband joined forces to push me out the door. My mother-in-law said viciously, "A hen that doesn't lay eggs should die as soon as possible. After the zombies are gone, my son can just marry a new wife and give me a grandson." My husband also had an indifferent expression and said, "It's not easy for my mother to raise me. The more mouths there are, the faster the food will be consumed. I can find another wife if I lose you, but I only have one mother. Don't blame me." I was eaten alive by zombies in despair. However, my mother-in-law and husband managed to survive until the arrival of the National Rescue by relying on the New Year's goods I bought. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when I went to buy the New Year's goods. 1. Those who eat for free don't understand how hard it is to earn money. My son works so hard outside, and all the money he earns is spent by you alone, you wasteful thing. In our time, a little bit of oil could be used to stir-fry 3 pots of dishes. You bought so many things. Are you reincarnated from a glutton? When my mother-in-law Gabriella's sharp voice rang in my ears, I realized that I had been reborn. The company's performance was not good, and it closed down at the end of the year. But it gave me a considerable severance payment. I originally planned to buy more good dishes so that my family could have a prosperous spring festival happily, and I would look for a new job after the spring festival. Unexpectedly, since my mother-in-law learned that I was unemployed, her attitude towards me has been getting worse day by day. In my previous life, after my mother-in-law saw that I had bought so many things, she scolded me severely just like now. When my husband Thomas came back, he also sided with his mother and helped her complain about me, insisting that I return all the dishes. I was very unhappy about it. I used to earn the most in the family, and I wasn't going to stop looking for a job after the spring festival. So why did I become someone who ate for free? Moreover, the whole family ate the dishes. How could it be said that all the money was only spent by me? So I had a big quarrel with them and planned to go back to my parents' home for the spring festival. Unexpectedly, before I left, there was a global zombie outbreak, and we were trapped at home. I was still that. There were enough supplies stocked at home, but my husband and mother-in-law actually joined forces to push me out the door. My mother-in-law said viciously, "A hen that doesn't lay eggs should die as soon as possible. After the zombies are gone, my son can marry a new wife and give me a grandson." My husband also had an indifferent expression and said, "It's not easy for my mother to raise me. The more mouths there are, the faster the food will be consumed. I can find another wife if I lose you, but I only have one mother. Don't blame me. I died in the midst of a horde of zombies filled with despair." My husband and mother-in-law, however, survived until the arrival of the National Rescue by relying on the things I bought. My mother-in-law's scolding continued. Hatred welled up in my heart, and I turned around and left with a large pile of vegetables in my hand. In this life, I want to see if these mother and son can still live to the end without the vegetables I stocked up, too. As soon as I opened the door, I found that Thomas had come back and was at the door. He glanced at the things in my hand and asked my mother-in-law what was wrong. My mother-in-law immediately started shouting, "Look at the good wife you married. She gives us a cold shoulder after just a few words. You work so hard to earn money every day. Unlike some people who enjoy a good life and have a big temper, you can't even say a word to them. Your father passed away early, and I'm old and useless. I just want to lighten your burden." As my mother-in-law spoke, her eyes turned red, and she began to wipe away her tears. My husband frowned and accused me while changing his shoes. "Mom is old, and it's not easy for her to raise me alone. What's wrong with you as a daughter-in-law letting her say a few words?" "Don't." Before he could finish his sentence, I threw down the vegetables and slapped him hard in the face. The clear sound of the slap resounded throughout the living room, and both Thomas and Gabriella were stunned. I pointed at his nose and said, "Thomas, whoever's mother has it hard should make up for it. Don't talk nonsense to me here. Let me ask you, who bought the car in the family, who paid the mortgage, and who bought your mother's massage chair? With the little money you earn, it's already good if you don't starve to death. Have you forgotten all about it after working a few more days, before I lost my job?" Thomas was quite obedient to me. Even if my mother-in-law was in the wrong, he would mediate between us, and life was still quite smooth. Unexpectedly, as soon as I lost my job, this mother and son showed their true colors. Thomas was stunned by my slap. He wasn't a tough person either, and he immediately subconsciously started to explain. I definitely didn't listen. I turned to look at my mother-in-law and said, "You old shrew, if you can't stand your son getting married so much, then you can just live with your son from now on. Try your best to have a big fat grandson." After saying that, I picked up the vegetables and slammed the door behind me. Inside the house behind me, Gabriella's curses and cries resounded. I didn't have the time to pay attention to them. There were still 8 hours before the zombie outbreak, and I had to hurry up. In this life, I have to live well. 3. Fortunately, the vegetables I carried home were just a small part. The majority of the rest would be delivered to my home later by someone. I called and told the delivery person to delay the delivery and that the address had changed. I went through all the apocalyptic novels I had read before in my mind. I immediately called my parents in the countryside and told them that there was a new type of influenza virus spreading recently. I have a client with a powerful background who said that we need to stay home in isolation again recently, so I asked them to stock up more supplies. This situation is different from the past. They must also reinforce the original courtyard wall to prevent people with bad intentions from coveting it. Fortunately, my parents have always believed what I said. They repeatedly assured me that they would buy more things and not go out again, and then I felt relieved. Moreover, I briefly described the faces of Gabriella and Thomas, the mother and son, and told my parents not to believe any of their words and not to answer their calls. I even suggested that they block them. Then I quickly opened the rental housing app and prepared to rent a large penthouse on the top floor of a community away from the urban area. Fortunately, the real estate agent was reliable and quickly found a new community with few people. There were not many residents living in it. The homeowner was a painter. He liked such a quiet and secluded environment. However, he went abroad not long after he bought the house and decorated it. I didn't hesitate to sign the contract and then told the delivery person a nearby address. I planned to drive and pick up the vegetables myself when they arrived later. After all, the most terrifying thing in the apocalypse is people's hearts. It's better to be more cautious and not let others know that I have stocked up so many supplies. Then I immediately called and offered 3 times the price to replace all the doors and windows of the house. The doors should be of the bank vault level, and the windows should also be replaced with bulletproof glass. Then I would stick one-way film on the glass. The workers were very quick. They were just curious about why I wanted to do this. I casually made up a story and said that a year ago, I was robbed in my home, and my mother-in-law and husband were stabbed to death like honeycombs. Under the huge shock, I not only suffered from paranoid delusions of persecution but also bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Many of the surrounding neighbors had been accidentally injured by me. I had no other choice but to find such a place. It was to protect myself and also to protect others. After hearing this, the workers didn't say anything and just accelerated their work speed. While keeping an eye on the renovation, I also placed many orders for things online through express delivery services, and they were all delivered to a place 3 kilometers away from the community. I don't know if it was the power of money or the effect of my made-up story, but the workers quickly finished the installation. Fortunately, the original owner of this house liked quietness, and the sound insulation of the house was very good. Otherwise, would have to spend time installing sound insulation cotton, and I'm afraid it would be too late. Before leaving, I still felt a bit reluctant and reminded the workers that I heard there were a lot of people catching a cold recently, and it would be better for them to go home early and buy more things. It's not that I'm cold-hearted. When the order in the apocalypse collapses, the ugliness of human nature will be completely exposed. I'm not a savior, and I can only manage to protect myself. When the house was renovated, the supplies had already been delivered to the place I specified. I first drove out to buy other things and planned to bring the things back when it got dark. At the wholesale market, I bought 200 gin of flour, 200 gin of rice, and 50 gin each of various fresh fruits and vegetables. I also bought 300 gin each of dehydrated foods like dried kidney beans, dried bamboo shoots, and dried radishes that could be preserved for a long time. When the fresh fruits and vegetables were all eaten up, I could still soak the dried kidney beans and eat them. After buying the staple foods, fruits, and vegetables, I went to buy seasonings such as salt, oil, 13 spice powder, light soy sauce, and dark soy sauce. Considering that there would be water and power outages in the apocalypse, I also bought a gas stove. I had already called to order barreled water. I also bought several huge buckets and planned to fill them with water after I got back. Then I would buy a water purifier, in case there was no water. it would be possible to purify rainwater or snow water. I also bought some seeds. When I went back later, I would dig some soil by the roadside and take it back. I remember that half a year after the outbreak of the apocalypse in my previous life, the National Rescue arrived. I have a small appetite, and with other things, if there are no accidents, it should be enough to last until the rescue arrives. However, for the sake of safety, in the end, I also bought some canned foods and compressed biscuits. They have a long shelf life and are easy to preserve. This is the final guarantee. If all the other things are eaten up, I can still survive for a long time relying on these compressed biscuits. I also went to a nearby hardware store to buy some self-defense items. Anyway, everyone bought a lot of things at the wholesale market, and my quantity was still relatively small. No one noticed anything unusual at all. I made trip after trip without stopping to transport these things back. Fortunately, the wholesale market wasn't far from the house I rented, so I didn't waste much time. After finishing all this, I went to a supermarket a bit farther away and bought a large quantity of toilet paper, sanitary napkins, disposable underwear, and other hygiene products. I also bought cold-proof items such as electric blankets, electric heaters, hand warmers, down jackets, cold-proof sleeping bags, warm patches, quilts, cotton socks, gloves, and cotton shoes. After thinking about it, I also bought a telescope. In my previous life, along with the outbreak of the zombies, the temperature also dropped sharply, coupled with the water and power outages. A lot of people were frozen to death. These electric heating items I bought could be used for a while before the power outage. After the power outage, I would have to rely on physical means to keep warm. There was no other way. I had also considered installing solar panels, but I gave up on the idea after thinking about it. On the one hand, there wasn't enough time. On the other hand, installing this kind of thing required approval from relevant departments, which was simply not realistic. Moreover, even if I installed it, it would be too noticeable and easily expose me, and then I would be targeted by people with ulterior motives. Fortunately, this was a new community. I observed that the surveillance cameras in the underground garage weren't turned on at all. When I was moving the supplies just now, I chose an elevator, covered my face, and in a moment of determination, I directly damaged the surveillance camera inside. In this way, I didn't have to worry about the community security guards seeing that I was stockpiling supplies. After finishing all this, it got dark. There were still 3 hours before the arrival of the apocalypse, and I quickly went to move back the things that had just been delivered to the door. I lived on the 23rd floor. The address of the barreled water was filled in as the 15th floor downstairs, which was unoccupied and wouldn't expose my location. There were only a few households in this building, considering the load bearing problem and the fact that I had bought a water purifier. I didn't order a lot of barreled water. Instead of going to the 15th floor to move the water first, I took advantage of the last more than an hour to drive to a nearby pharmacy and buy a lot of daily necessary medicines. I also bought alcohol, gauze, iodine, and various vitamins. On the way back, I conveniently packed 2 portions of grilled cold noodles, spicy hot pot, 5 gin of spicy boneless chicken feet, and a large cup of double scoop ice cream black tea with tea jelly. The apocalypse was approaching, and I wanted to have a good meal for the last time. After I came back, there was still half an hour left. I took this time to move all the barreled water upstairs. After finishing everything, I took out the big lock I bought at the hardware store and locked the fire door. There was one elevator for each household here. After the power outage, the elevator would stop running, and the safety door was the only passage that could lead upstairs. In this way, I had one more layer of protection before entering the door. After thinking about it, I also moved the 2 fire extinguishers in the corridor into the house in case of a fire. After finishing all the things, I opened my phone and saw that it was 9:15 p.m. There were still 5 minutes before the zombie outbreak. I had only sent messages to communicate with my parents on the way. Now I called them one last time to confirm that all the things that should be bought had been bought, and the courtyard had also been simply reinforced. Only then did I feel relieved. By this time, I was too tired to have an appetite. I took a few bites casually, put the things on the coffee table, and lay on the sofa exhausted, with my whole head buzzing. But looking at the supplies all over the house, I felt an indescribable sense of steadiness and security in my heart. Just then, my phone rang. It was Thomas calling. For as soon as I answered the phone, Thomas's deafening shout came out from the receiver. "Lauren, where the hell have you been? Who are you flirting with outside? Come back quickly. Mom and I have been hungry for a whole day, and you still haven't come back to cook. You don't have a job now. Do you really want to just mooch off us at home?" While Thomas was saying these words, there came the sound of Gabriella's instigation from the side. She whispered, "That's right, son, just say it like that. You're a big man. Are you really afraid of her?" After hearing this, I sneered and said, "Thomas, if you listen to your mother so much, then what's the point of getting married? It would be better if you and your mother digest each other internally and produce and sell yourselves." "You idiot, I just happened to have installed a surveillance camera at home. I wanted to see what these two people would do after the zombie outbreak when they really had no supplies." Was the affection between the mother and son deeper, or was the inferiority of human nature more dominant? After scolding, I didn't hesitate to hang up the phone. Almost at the same time, a scream came from the open window. I immediately went over and closed the window, and then took out the telescope to observe. I saw that on the road outside the community, many cars had crashed into each other, causing a large chain reaction of rear-end collisions, and the cars were smoking. There were many people staggering and rushing towards the people next to them in an extremely strange and twisted posture. Their faces were ashen gray, with no black pupils at all. Their features were decaying, and pus and blood oozed from their bodies. As soon as they saw someone, they would bite. One of them tore off the thigh of a person beside them and started chewing it vigorously. Blood splattered everywhere. I nervously swallowed my saliva. The zombie outbreak had occurred even though I had witnessed it in my previous life. My stomach still churned, and I couldn't hold back the urge to vomit. I rushed to the bathroom and threw up. I wasn't sure if it was due to exhaustion, the fear from my past life, or the recent nausea, but I was shivering all over. I haphazardly wrapped myself in a quilt and lay down on the sofa. Before long, I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I realized that my head felt heavy and my whole body ached and was weak. I took my temperature with a thermometer, and as expected, I had a fever. I rummaged through a large pile of medicine, took out a ibuprofen tablet and swallowed it, and then drank a lot of hot water. After wrapping myself in a thick quilt, I leaned against the sofa and started looking at my phone. Apart from the messages from my parents asking about my safety and their missed calls, all the other messages were from Thomas. "Lauren, where the hell have you gone? If you dare to fool around outside and cheat on me, if I find out, I'll beat you to death. Come back and apologize to my mom. You're so uneducated. Didn't your mother teach you to respect your elders? Mom and I are hungry. If you come back now and buy some ready-made food and 2 boxes of cherries to show your respect to Mom, I'll reluctantly forgive you." The last message was, "Damn it, what's going on outside? Lauren, where are the things you bought? Who let you take the things away? Are you trying to kill me and Mom on purpose?" I read the messages but didn't reply. I opened my phone and sent messages to my parents to let them know I was safe, but Thomas and Gabriella kept bombarding my phone, so I directly set them to do not disturb. There were surveillance cameras installed at home. I just opened the media app to check on the status of Gabriella and Thomas. There were piles of supplies beside the two of them, like a small hill, and Thomas was carefully distributing them. He said, "Mom, we're saved now. If we're frugal with our food, we should be able to wait until the rescue arrives." Gabriella snorted coldly. "That woman who can't have children is somewhat useful. After all, she left us so much food. It's a good thing she's not here, otherwise, I'd throw her out to feed the zombies. It would be best if she died outside, then you could marry a new wife." Gabriella raised her chin, looking mean and sarcastic. "I usually have the habit of stockpiling supplies. In this life, I didn't have the supplies transported to my house, but there were still quite a lot of things left at home. If we were thrifty, we could hold on for another month or two." I sneered as I looked at the surveillance footage. Just thinking about the scene in my previous life when I was pushed out the door by Thomas and Gabriella made a surge of hatred well up in my heart. I definitely won't let these two off so easily. I have a big gift in store for them. However, the time isn't right yet. 5. After a few hours, the screams of people had subsided a lot, and what could be heard more were the roars of the zombies. The trending topics on the phone had exploded. Seeing that they couldn't suppress the situation, the government simply announced the zombie outbreak and told everyone to stay in quarantine at home and wait for rescue. I put down my phone, picked up a pair of binoculars, and started observing. Our residential area has a low occupancy rate, and it's located in the suburbs, far away from the crowds. There aren't many zombies downstairs. However, on the road further away, dozens of zombies were wandering aimlessly after losing their human targets. Occasionally, a passing bird could catch their attention and Cause a commotion, just like in my previous life and in the Doomsday novels. Zombies are attracted to light and are sensitive to sound. After observing for a while, I boiled some hot water and poured myself a cup. I also put the food that I didn't finish last night into the microwave to heat it up. In an instant, the room was filled with a delicious aroma. I was tired from yesterday and had sweated a lot due to my illness. Now my stomach was already growling, looking at the spicy and sour boneless chicken feet. I couldn't resist the temptation. After having a good meal, I started organizing the supplies that I had stockpiled yesterday. After finishing the work, I put the previously prepared mud into flower pots or buckets, filling up anything that could hold it. Then I planted the seeds that I bought before, hoping that I might be able to have some fresh vegetables to eat. Moreover, after the doomsday arrived, outside the window was a scene of lifelessness, and the whole world was in a state of ruin. Having some fresh life around could also lift my spirits and give me something to look forward to. After finishing everything that I had planned to do last night, I felt hungry again. After thinking about it, I decided to make the noodles with thick gravy that I had always wanted to make but never had the time for. Out of boredom, I opened the surveillance camera to check on Thomas and Gabriella. They were just about to have their meal. I took out 4 eggs that I bought yesterday and 2 juicy tomatoes to make the taste better. I also took out some fresh pork and 2 bunches of small green vegetables. I heated up some oil in the pan. With a sizzling sound, the aroma instantly filled the kitchen. Meanwhile, Gabriella reluctantly took out a pack of instant noodles, broke it into 4 pieces, and took out 2 of them. She put them into a large bowl respectively and then poured in 2 large bowls of water. When I brought out a large bowl of steaming noodles with tomato, egg, and green vegetable gravy, Gabriella and Thomas had already finished their meal. Thomas even poured some water into the bowl to rinse it and then drank the water with the remaining instant noodle crumbs. Gabriella said with a pained expression, "Thomas, if you're really hungry, eat more. Anyway, we still have a lot of food. Look, you've lost so much weight from hunger." As I ate the hot and fragrant noodles with thick gravy, I heard Thomas say, "Mom, what do you know? There are so many zombies outside. When will the national rescue arrive? If we tighten our belts now, we'll be able to live longer." Gabriella was so touched that tears welled up in her eyes. She kept praising Thomas for being smart and farsighted. She even wanted to give her instant noodle soup to Thomas to drink. After having a wonderful meal, I felt warm all over. I covered myself with a thick quilt and curled up on the sofa and fell asleep. This narrow space made me feel more secure. In this way, a week passed without any incident. Although the spring festival was approaching, some families had already run out of food. People in the homeowners group had started asking if anyone had supplies and they were willing to pay double the price to buy them, but there was no response in the group. With the arrival of the doomsday, supplies were life, and money was just a pile of waste paper. Of course, no one would share their supplies. Looking at the supplies that Thomas and Gabriella had barely touched due to their frugality, a smile slowly spread across my lips. Then I took out my phone and posted in the homeowners group, "I still have supplies at home. Anyone who doesn't have any can come to my house to get some. We're all in the same building. We should help each other and get through this difficult time." I also attached a photo of the supplies in my phone. The supplies in the photo were piled up like a small hill, making anyone who saw it envious. After I posted the message, the people in the group hadn't reacted yet. But Thomas and Gabriella erupted in anger. Since they couldn't get through to me on the phone, they immediately sent messages scolding me. Gabriella wished she could crawl out of the phone and strangle me. "You slutty bitch, you heartless whore, do you want to kill us? I should have asked Thomas to strangle you before you went out that day. Why haven't you been eaten by the zombies yet? You really are a curse that lingers for 1,000 years. Thomas was your husband after all. How could you harm your man like this? In ancient times, you would have been drowned in a pig cage for this." I sneered and sent a cheeky emoji. Oh, then I blocked both Thomas and Gabriella and let them lose their temper. I almost laughed to death. I bought the food and spent the money. In this life, did they still think they could rely on my supplies to survive until the rescue arrived? That was absolutely impossible. Even if I gave the supplies to others at a low price, I wouldn't let these 2 ungrateful people have them. 6. I watched the surveillance footage. Gabriella was still cursing me viciously. Thomas sat beside her. Although his face showed fear, he still pretended to be calm and comforted Gabriella, saying, "It's okay, Mom, our door is very strong. Lauren spent more than 10,000 yuan installing it at that time. Even if those people are very powerful, they can't break in. We just need to reinforce the windows and other things quickly." Gabriella nodded with a sad face, but the next second after, Thomas finished speaking, there was a knock on the door. It was the people from the building who came to buy supplies. Gabriella and Thomas wanted to pretend that no one was at home, but the knocking on the door got louder and louder. Through the surveillance camera, I could even hear the low growls of the zombies outside. My home is on the 3rd floor. This floor doesn't have any advantages. If the zombies were really attracted in, the residents downstairs would be the first to bear the brunt. Thomas had to stand by the door and say politely, guys, we really don't have any supplies at home. Lauren and I had a fight. She just wants to kill me and is deliberately lying to you. Go back quickly. It will be dangerous if the zombies come later. A voice came from outside the door. Thomas, we're all neighbors. Please have mercy and save us. As long as you give us a little food, the old people and children at home can't hold on any longer. Thomas of course didn't want to. Both sides kept arguing and couldn't reach an agreement. The people outside started to get impatient and began to bang on the door. Seeing that the door was very strong and the group of people couldn't do anything, Gabriella became bolder. She directly cursed. What are you shouting for? If you attract the zombies, you'll die even faster. So what if I have supplies? I just won't give them to you. Life and death are determined by fate, and wealth is in the hands of heaven. You deserve to starve to death. Gabriella was naturally an impatient person, and her mouth was very venomous and mean. She had offended many families in the community. When the people outside heard this, they were so angry that they even took an axe, but they still couldn't break the door open. They kicked the door in a fit of rage. There was a slight banging sound from downstairs in the surveillance footage. I guessed that the zombies were hitting the door of the apartment building. Only then did the sounds outside disappear. At the same time, seeing that the people outside couldn't do anything to her, Gabriella became even more emboldened. She directly started scolding in the homeowners group. You bunch of people who will shorten your lifespan. You didn't do good deeds in normal times. Now you want to rob our things when you have nothing to eat. You deserve to starve to death. I have supplies. And I have food. So what if I don't give them to you? Weren't you all so capable before? If anyone kneels down and barks like a dog twice, maybe I'll be merciful and give you some food. Gabriella's actions completely infuriated the residents in the homeowners group, but they were all helpless against Gabriella. There were even people in the group begging Gabriella and barking like dogs just to get a bite of food, because the old people at home were almost dying and hadn't eaten for 4 days, but they only received ridicule from Gabriella. Thomas stood beside her, looking worried and trying to stop Gabriella. Gabriella said, "What are you afraid of? You're so spineless. You're like this. That's why you were controlled by that slut Lauren. But fortunately, that little bitch is still somewhat useful. At least she has guaranteed our current food and safety." There were a lot of scolding voices in the group towards Gabriella, but Gabriella still posted a video of herself having a meal in the group to show off. The video also showed that there were a lot of supplies beside her. Looking at Gabriella's proud expression and the chaotic homeowners group, I stood out and said a word. The password for my door is 025810. It's true that my front door is strong, but it's a password lock. Instantly, the group fell silent for a moment, and then it erupted. The messages directly flooded the screen. Gabriella was directly stunned in the surveillance footage. She took out her phone and started cursing at me, only to find that I had blocked her. She was in a state of being angry but having nowhere to vent her anger, and she was also very panicked. Thomas was also very angry, but he couldn't get in touch with me either. The mother and son wanted to change the password of the front door quickly, but it was already too late. I made myself a cup of coffee and watched the outcome of Gabriella and Thomas in the surveillance footage. Several big and strong men broke in. They not only pressed the two of them to the ground and beat them severely but also took away all the supplies in the house. Gabriella was beaten black and blue, and a lot of her hair was pulled out. Thomas hugged the thigh of one of the men and begged him to leave some supplies, but that man kicked Thomas in the chest. "Wasn't your mother very arrogant? Let her kneel on the ground and kowtow to me twice, and then bark like a dog twice. Maybe I'll be merciful and leave you some supplies." Gabriella's old face was swollen like a pig's head. She lay on the ground like a dead dog, not even having the strength to groan. Thomas lay on the ground, and tears streamed down his temples. Just then, I spoke through the surveillance camera. "Brother, leave them some supplies. After all, they have a deep mother-son relationship." The man recognized my voice. He looked at the surveillance camera and then at the two people on the ground. He sneered and left a bag of sesame paste. Then he left the mother and son, Gabriella and Thomas, and swaggered away. I was in a great mood, eating the freshly marinated chicken drumsticks. I taunted, "Thomas, Gabriella, I want to see how you can still have a deep mother-son relationship this time and how you can live until the end. Thinking of all the things in my previous life, I hated them deeply. Looking at their miserable state now, I felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction in my heart. There was only one bag of sesame paste left. I wanted to see how these two people could survive. It would be too easy for them to be torn apart by the zombies. I wanted them to turn against each other and live a life worse than death. Either they would starve to death in despair, or after having enough of the despair, they would go out to look for supplies and be eaten by the zombies. The pain I suffered in my previous life, they would have to pay it back 1,000 times over. Only then did the two of them remember that there were surveillance cameras at home. Thomas went crazy and stood up and smashed the surveillance camera. He was still shouting that I was a venomous woman. I sneered in my heart. To deal with people like Thomas and Gabriella, one had to act like a venomous woman. The screen went black, but unexpectedly, I could still hear the sound. I was delighted. Well, products made by Xiaomi are really different. 7. On the 10th day of the doomsday, it snowed heavily. Fortunately, the water and electricity hadn't been cut off yet. I turned on all the electric heaters and electric blankets that I had bought in advance and put on the down jacket that I had been reluctant to buy before. It was so warm in the room that my back was sweating. Tomorrow would be the new year. Thinking that I didn't live to this time in my previous life, I had a strange feeling in my heart. The kitchen was too cold to enter. Moreover, the sound of the range hood was too loud, and the zombies seemed to have evolved. Their hearing was even more acute, so I didn't dare to cook. So I turned on the induction cooker that I had bought before in the living room and stewed apples, longans, red dates, and fermented glutinous rice into a hot soup. After drinking it, I felt even warmer all over. Then I let the dough that I had prepared in advance rise beside the electric heater. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, it's our local custom to eat dumplings. Since I had nothing else to do anyway, I decided to make some dumplings completely by hand. I rummaged through the supplies again, took out the ingredients for the dishes I was going to cook the next day, and prepared them in advance. After finishing all these last night, I turned on my phone, and sounds came from the black screen of the surveillance camera. Thomas began to show disgust towards Gabriella. Not only did he swear at her, but there were also sounds of slapping her in the face. Gabriella's sobbing cries came through, and she kept wailing about the misfortune. In just a few short days, this mother and son had turned against each other. When I woke up early the next morning, it was extremely cold. The electric heater beside me seemed to have gone out, and the electric blanket under me wasn't warm anymore. It turned out that there was a power outage. Shivering, I put on my clothes and looked out the window. I found that the snow had stopped. The world was covered in white, and the whole world seemed brighter. The snow was so deep that it had already covered the heads of the zombies. They seemed to be frozen stiff, standing there motionless, while some were moving slowly. In my previous life, I was bitten to death by zombies right at the beginning of the apocalypse. It was also because of my resentment that I managed to hold on until the end. I only vaguely knew that the National Rescue had arrived. I didn't know much about the other details. The dough had already frozen hard. I sighed, feeling it was a pity, but after all, it was the spring festival today, so I still had to make it look decent. I stuck some warming patches on my body, cleaned the house, and did a little exercise. My body wasn't as stiff anymore. I died in the midst of a group of zombies, full of despair. After getting everything ready, I observed the zombies for a while longer, checked the doors and windows. After making sure there was no problem, I sat on the bed and read a novel that I had downloaded in advance for a while. When it was evening, I turned on the camping stove and stir-fried the dishes that I had prepared the day before. Since it was all just for one person, the operation was very simple. During the break of stir-frying, I took out a box of self-heating rice and cooked it. When everything was ready, I took a photo. There was a power outage and the internet was also cut off. Fortunately, I had informed my parents that I was safe and wished them an early New Year the day before. In the evening, I ate the New Year's Eve dinner and watched the previous Spring Festival gala. Suddenly, a firework burst in the dark night outside. My heart was suddenly touched by something. This brief warmth seemed to take me back to the time before the apocalypse. There were still people alive like me. My heart was suddenly filled with hope. 8. On the 40th day of the apocalypse, the temperature rose a little bit. I didn't need the warming patches anymore, and my body wasn't stiff. I opened the yoga video that I had downloaded in advance and exercised along with it. On the 67th day of the apocalypse, spring gradually arrived. and the warm sunlight shone into the living room. The vegetables I planted finally sprouted. That touch of green vitality made me extremely happy. The zombies downstairs also regained their ability to move on the 158th day of the apocalypse. The outside temperature rose, and a faint stench of decay wafted over. Many zombies were like candles. The rotten flesh on their bodies fell off, and it was a bit like they were melting. On the 170th day of the apocalypse, it rained for 3 days and 3 nights. The zombies on the ground slowly fell down. A drone flew outside the window, with a bright Chinese red color on it. There was also a loudspeaker on the drone playing on a loop that the country had developed a way to kill the zombies, and the corresponding vaccine, the water, electricity, and internet also began to be restored slowly. The morning sunlight shone into the living room. I opened the window and felt that the air was fresher than ever before. The east is red, and the sun is rising. Story 2, the day before the apocalypse. I was in a large supermarket spending my generous severance package from my recent job loss. My parents had finally finished renovating our old family villa, and with the Chinese New Year a couple of months away, I, unfortunately, got laid off after 5 years of hard work at my company. This misfortune surprisingly equipped me with a fortress and ample supplies for the end times, if only it weren't for the bully next door. On the day I was let go, my boss said to me, "Kendall, the company's severance package is very generous. I hope you won't dwell on it too much. Let's part on good terms and save face for both sides. It'll be less awkward if we bump into each other in the industry." His words were pretty, but wasn't it just because the boss's daughter and my boyfriend, who was also my manager, had a thing for each other and were eager to see me out? Ridiculous. Who would choose a lousy man over money? So, I took the money and left. These next few months weren't too long or too short, just enough time to go home and rest with my parents. Since I was going home, I couldn't shortchange myself, though I had already stocked up on familiar household items during the shopping festival. Considering the 2-level basement at home used as a cellar, the inconvenient muddy roads that made deliveries a hassle, and my penchant for staying indoors, I felt I could shop a bit more. After a shopping spree, I drove my little cherry back to my hometown. It was my first time visiting the villa that had been built over 2 years ago. What a shock it was. Wow! The yard was over 500 square meters, surrounded by walls over 2 meters high, with explosion-proof gates and even an electric fence. Could this be a prison? "Ah, you're back," greeted my mother. "Mom, what's with these walls and this gate?" I asked, picking up my dropped jaw and looking around. The front yard was neatly arranged with 5 or 6 vegetable patches lush with greens, and there was a small fish pond in the southeast corner with several tilapia swimming around. "It's all because of that jerk Hugo next door." Hugo and his wife, both over 50, had a son named Hunter. They spoiled him rotten, and the young boy had already been in juvenile detention a few times. I was often bullied by him during my childhood, especially after starting middle school. As I grew up, he would whistle and follow me every time I went home, forcing my dad to pick me up early from school. After he was sentenced to 5 years for assault, I was finally free from him. Just thinking about his malicious gaze still sends shivers down my spine. That jerk climbed over the wall one day and tried to break into your dad's safe. Fortunately, the house had just been renovated and we hadn't bought much furniture yet, and the safe was just a cheap one given by the renovation company, so it was empty. The night we stayed at your Uncle G's place in the city, we came back the next day to find the house trashed. That jerk, failing to find any money, smashed all our windows. Your dad and I went to report it to the police, but that jerk had already run away. The local police know him well but can't do much about him. He was previously sentenced for a few years, but he hasn't changed at all. Hugo's parents are shameless, even coming to our doorstep to curse us, blaming us for driving their son away. Your dad was so angry he couldn't sleep for days. Mom continued as she led me into the house. Finally, your dad and I decided if we can't confront them, we can at least avoid them. So we raised the walls higher, installed an electric fence, and replaced the gate with the sturdiest one available. The contractor said that only a lot of explosives could break it. Even the windows have been replaced with bulletproof glass. We heard Hugo fled to Southeast Asia, where it's chaotic and war-torn, and guns are rampant. Who knows if that jerk might secretly get a gun and come back. In recent years, our family has been doing well, and many are envious. Listening to this, I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I had been so busy working away from home that I had neglected my parents far too much. Mom, why didn't you tell me about something so serious? I would have brought you guys to the city the moment I knew that scoundrel was released. Wherever he goes, trouble follows. How's Dad? Is he feeling any better? I didn't see him at home. He's been fine for a while now. Your dad and I are both farmers, tough as old boots. Even if we feel under the weather, we get over it in a few days. Your dad left early this morning to pick up an old friend who's coming over. It's your Uncle Lee. Poor man, he stayed loyal to the memory of his late wife for so many years, never remarried, doesn't even have children. He really only gets along with your dad. Also, the parcel we ordered has arrived. I asked him to bring it back with him. After changing upstairs, I followed Mom to sort out the basement. As she mentioned, we'd bought too much recently and hadn't organized it properly. When I saw the neatly arranged shelves in the basement, my jaw dropped again. The shelves were packed tightly with large packages of grains, oils, rice, noodles, and various household supplies like toilet paper, toothpaste, toothbrushes, shampoo, shower gel, and even the sanitary pads I usually use took up an entire shelf. In the corners, there were several large freezers, and the floor was covered with piles of unopened parcels. Mom, why did you buy so much? There was a sale online a couple of months ago, much cheaper than buying from the stores downtown. You know we have the housewarming party after New Year, and the prices for these goods will skyrocket around then. It's better to buy them at a discount now and stock up. These items have long shelf lives. They'll last. My mom calculated the savings with gleaming eyes. We clearly got a great deal. Seeing her so happy, I didn't bother discussing the economics of false savings with her and resignedly helped her sort through the parcels. Nothing is more precious than my mom's happiness. When she's happy, the whole family is happy. We kept busy sorting things out until noon, and by then, I was so tired I could barely straighten my back. While opening parcels is usually fun, doing it for 3 or 4 hours straight is quite painful. Fortunately, the basement was equipped with air conditioning and a ventilation system, so it wasn't too uncomfortable. After lunch, Dad still hadn't returned, so Mom decided to take me to clean the second basement level. That's when I noticed all the external units of our air conditioners were installed there. Mom explained that they used to be outside, but our neighbor Hugo had cut the wires several times, complaining that the noise was too disturbing. He insisted that we couldn't install them outside. Between the lines, it was clear they wanted some sort of compensation for their mental anguish. Otherwise, these AC units wouldn't be installed. These are minor issues. His family is all ruffians. It's not worth arguing with them. They have nothing to lose. And if things escalate, who knows what they might do to us. Remember old Mr. Lee from Dong Village? Grandpa Lee used to run a vineyard in Dong Village. 2 years ago, when Hunter was freshly out of prison and loitering around the village, he noticed that Grandpa Lee had just received a cash payment for his grapes. The old man didn't use mobile payments and carried cash. The sight of the shiny new bills tempted Hunter, and that night, he sneaked into Lee's house and stole tens of thousands of yuan. The next day, Grandpa Lee and his family came with the police to confront Hunter, but he had fled overnight. Hugo and his wife refused to disclose their son's whereabouts, insisting Hunter wasn't the thief. Without any evidence, Hunter had left neither footprints nor fingerprints at the scene. The police couldn't do much. Emotions ran high, and in the ensuing chaos, who threw the first punch was unclear, but Hugo ended up in the hospital with a few bruises to his chest. Although the injuries were minor, Hugo used this as leverage to extort money and goods from the Lee family for years. Only early last year, when Grandpa Lee's health truly deteriorated, did he sell his vineyard and went traveling. Hugo wanted to continue causing trouble, but Lee's younger son, tired of the extortion, resigned from his public service job to start a business, and Hugo finally backed down. 5. These recent events really made your father and me think. Over the past few years, we've leased out all our land except for the orchard on the back hill. Your dad and I are planning to travel around since you're working in the city and no one's at home. The external unit of the air conditioner being mounted on the outside wall is a potential hazard. Who knows if Hunter, when he's out of money, might dismantle it to sell, and what if it falls while he's taking it down? Anyway, there's room in the basement. I've installed separate ventilation and soundproofing there. It's even better than the upstairs soundproofing, so it won't disturb us. A small expense to avoid a big problem. The second basement level doesn't have air conditioning, only a ventilation system, so we didn't store any food there, just some of my dad's tools and farming equipment. There weren't many things, and we didn't tidy up much. My mom saw it was about time to cook, so she went to prepare food. and I went upstairs to comfortably soak in a bath. After I was all settled, I took out my phone to watch some videos but instead saw a glaring headline on a video sharing platform: Zombie Siege. The apocalypse has arrived. A virus resembling that of zombies is spreading in our city. Please be cautious and avoid going out unless absolutely necessary. This morning, a person suspected of having rabies bit several people in a busy district. Duty officers and several civilians subdued him, and the injured have been taken to the hospital, one after another. Videos of bloody, terrifying zombie attacks filled my screen, making me think, it's December, not April Fools. When I opened WeChat, the residents group chat of our neighborhood was in uproar. I heard that a rabies-infected person bit someone on the pedestrian street. It took an officer and 4 or 5 strong men nearly couldn't hold him down. Look at the entrance of our complex. Isn't that the owner from Building 6? His arm is so badly injured. Why isn't he going to the hospital to get it bandaged? Oh dear, there's so much blood. That's a zombie. The owner from Building 6 has turned. He just bit the security guard at the gate. Everyone get home, don't go out. Message after message. Video after video. I had no choice but to believe it. The apocalypse was really here. 6. I was thinking about calling my dad to ask him to come back when I heard the engine of the old Jean Bay van. I turned around to see my dad hadn't even turned off the car engine and was frantically closing the gate. Dad also looked back and called out, "Kendall, come help Daddy close the gate. It's dangerous outside. There are zombies biting people." Dad ranted and raved for a while, startling my mom. I quickly gestured to my dad to calm down. First we thoroughly locked the gate, then electrified the fence on top of the wall, and when we got back inside, we locked all the windows and drew the curtains. My mom, who used to suffer from mild neurasthenia due to job stress years ago, couldn't sleep with any light, so all our curtains were blackout curtains. After finishing all this, I returned to the ground floor, where my mom was softly comforting my dad. I showed my mom the short videos on my phone. Thankfully, I had reacted quickly and saved them. They must have been taken down by now, as they were really too gory. Even if not manually reviewed, the algorithms would recognize it. Dad took a sip of water and slowly began. This morning, I first went to the courier station to pick up a package. Then after lunch, I went to the highway exit to meet Old Lee. He just took early retirement and had planned to come over to fish and relax for a few days, but he was delayed way past our agreed time. And I thought it unsafe to call him on the highway, so I just patiently waited. Just now, I saw his car and noticed he seemed injured. When he handed over his card at the highway exit, I saw blood on his hand. I was in my car and started it when I saw his, thinking we'd head back together. But then, the toll booth girls saw the blood and called over a colleague. I heard them dialing for emergency help. Old Lee, sitting in his car, had his eyes wide open, looking listless and almost unconscious, with his clothes half soaked in blood. I was about to get out to check on him when Old Lee suddenly burst out of his car and bit the toll booth girl on the neck, tearing off a large chunk of flesh. The blood splattered high, and that little girl was gone in an instant. Even several young men couldn't hold him down. I was so terrified I couldn't move, not to mention Old Lee with all his ailments. Even if he was 20 years younger, he wouldn't have that kind of strength. That's when I thought of the zombies from the movies. I corrected my dad. Not zombies, but the undead. My dad said, "Oh right, the undead." My dad continued, "It wasn't long before that girl, the one Old Lee had bitten, she stood up too. After she got up, she bit the closest young man to her. I couldn't hesitate any longer. I floored the accelerator and headed home." After finishing his story, my dad covered his face and cried silently. It's heartbreaking to see a lifelong friend pass away right before your eyes in such a manner. I suspect Uncle Lee must have been attacked at the service area because it's only less than a 10-minute drive from the nearest highway exit to my place. Moreover, Uncle Lee must have been attacked by an undead that hadn't fully mutated, thinking it wasn't serious, or planning to deal with it after getting off the highway. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to drive on the highway. From this situation, I presume that by tonight, our area will definitely see the undead. There's no time left. It's 3:30 in the afternoon now. I immediately got up and went upstairs to the living room, gathered my college computer and the old TV we had at home. Then I woke my father from his sorrow, asking him to display the surveillance footage on the big screen. As my mom and I know nothing about these things, we had to rely on my dad. I then ran to the basement, rummaged through my dad's tools to see if there was anything that could be used as a weapon, even if it couldn't kill the undead. it could still fend off malevolent people in these dire times. I have never forgotten that human nature is the most terrifying. After searching for a while, I only found a small hatchet and 2 firewood knives that could barely be used. Everything else was too cumbersome and not suitable for weapons. Suddenly, I spotted several large barrels of high-proof liquor and about 20 cases of branded liquor next to them, which my dad had kept for hosting guests during important events. Without hesitation, I pulled over a small cart and moved the liquor upstairs, grabbing a few bottles of turpentine along the way. I still remember my high school history teacher telling us about the use of Molotov cocktails during the Spanish Civil War. It was interesting, so I remembered it well. I went to my mom's room, grabbed several large pieces of cotton cloth and cut them with scissors. Then, I gathered some empty beer bottles my dad had finished and made a few simple Molotov cocktails. I originally thought of testing their power, but I was afraid that the noise would attract unwanted attention, so I had to give up. But having these things made me feel somewhat more secure. When I went back upstairs, I found my dad had already connected all the wires, and the surveillance video from various angles was clearly displayed on the screen. I took stock of our supplies. In life, one cannot do without food and water. For food, we don't have to worry, thanks to my mom. The storeroom in the basement has enough supplies to last us until the year after next. For water, our house has 3 water pipes. One is the village tap water, which I don't expect to last more than a few days. One is connected to the old well at the old house, retained mainly because of the large water consumption of my dad's fish pond. I was concerned about the water quality from the well, so I took advantage of a sale and bought a commercial water purifier. The last one is connected to a spring that was directed from the orchard behind our villa. The hill isn't very high, but the water quality is exceptional. The spring water was discovered by my mom by accident, and after my dad had it tested, he found it not only met drinking standards but was also rich in minerals. The flow is quite low, so we haven't told others about the spring water on the hill. My dad uses it to brew tea, while my mom uses it for cooking and making soup. As for the restroom, when the orchard was just set up, my grandfather started a pig farm at the foot of the hill. However, after the price of live pigs plummeted and my grandfather's health declined. After we stopped raising pigs, my grandfather built a septic tank at the foot of the mountain to handle the pig manure and to make it easier to fertilize the fruit trees. When we were installing sewage pipes during the villa renovation, because the pipes had to pass by Hugo's house, my mom, not wanting to deal with the hassle, directly connected the sewage pipes to the septic tank. Now, I think I should actually thank Hugo for that. Regarding electricity, when the villa was first being renovated, a distant relative who sold solar panels came to pitch his product. My dad, who was a bit clueless without my mom around, agreed to let him install the panels. When my mom came back and saw what had been done, and that a 5-year contract had been signed, both she and I were furious. I had originally planned to set up a swing and create a rooftop garden. I remember being very angry with my dad at the time, and now I think it was a blessing that my mom wasn't home then. Thinking of this, I quickly had my dad connect the solar panel wires to the main switch of the house. Previously, the village had low voltage, and although we bought a transformer, it wasn't used because the village soon upgraded the voltage. My mom had it installed when we were setting up the plumbing and electrical systems, thankfully keeping to her habit of not wasting anything. Now we have all the basic necessities we need. What's left is for entertainment. I took out the tablet and all the smartphones to start downloading various TV shows, movies, and documentaries. I also found a few USB drives to download not only films but also a variety of ebooks. During this time, I moved all the parcels from my dad's car to the basement. By the time everything was sorted, it was already 8 p.m. At that moment, standing in the yard listening to screams and shouts coming from the village, I felt utterly calm inside. Our family, with my mom not in good health and my dad getting older, can only rely on me, and I'm no miraculous savior. I'm just an ordinary person. All I want is to strive to survive with my family. I turned back, entered the house, and shut the door, cutting off all outside noise. After a distracted dinner, we sat in the living room on the second floor, watching the surveillance videos. Our house is somewhat secluded, set back a bit from the main road, and so far, no zombies had appeared. Hugo, the old man living nearest to us, had gone out to check the noises, returned pale and panicked, and quickly locked himself in his home. We don't really have any close relatives to contact. Both my parents were only children, and I'm their only child. All my grandparents had passed away long ago. the rest of the relatives had already shown their true colors when my dad mentioned borrowing money to build the villa, just to be cautious. I had already warned my parents about the unpredictability of human nature. We could save one person but not a crowd. In these apocalyptic times, preserving ourselves is crucial. We absolutely must not let danger into our home. My parents understood. Initially, we had never intended to build a villa. It was too showy, and neither of my parents liked that. It was only because the village needed to clear the land for road construction, taking over the old tile-roofed house that had stood vacant for years. All of my parents' money was tied up in fixed deposits at the bank. I had just quit my job to switch companies and hadn't yet settled into the new one, so we couldn't immediately access much cash. After asking all our relatives, not one was willing to lend us money. The most disheartening was my dad's cousin. In the past, both families had struggled, and my dad, remembering how his cousin had a tough time at her in-laws, scrimped and saved to buy her a nice coat for the new year. When her son was performing poorly in school, my dad went out of his way to get him into a good school and even secured him a job in a large company. Over the years, my dad was always the first to help his cousin whenever she called. I had expressed my dissatisfaction, but my dad said they were family, and the good he did for them today would be repaid to us in the future. This was his belief as I was growing up and would one day marry. My parents are no longer around, but I still have an aunt and a supportive older brother. Unexpectedly, my parents even showed her their bank book, yet that distant aunt still claimed she had no money to lend and immediately signed up her family of 5 for a luxurious tour of 7 European countries. She flaunted her shopping spree at luxury stores on social media. If it weren't for my cousin's boss coincidentally running into my father and mentioning that my cousin must have won the lottery, we would still be in the dark. You can block someone on social media, but you can't block them from your social circle. In a fit of anger, my parents decided to build a beautiful villa to show those opportunistic relatives. Now that we are facing a major crisis, no one can blame us for only looking after ourselves. I moved my gaming chair out of my room and agreed with my parents that starting tonight, I would take the night shift, my dad the day shift, and my mom would take care of our daily needs. After discussing, I sent them off to sleep. Even if they couldn't sleep, they needed to rest. The end times have begun ringing, and the future will be a prolonged battle. We need to be well rested to face it. At night, I monitored the cameras while browsing videos online, where people were either genuinely seeking help and supplies or just trying to gain attention and increase their followers. Suddenly, a post caught my eye, written by someone called the Irresponsible News Hound. The post analyzed that, based on the available data, this zombie outbreak was global. Outbreaks had already occurred in Western countries, and only the reduction of international flights due to the pandemic had delayed the outbreak here. The domestic outbreak was traced back to a dog, which had escaped after being infected abroad and was picked up and sent back to China by a Chinese student. The first reports of zombie attacks involved this student's parents. The virus didn't just appear out of nowhere. The only medical records available for the student's parents were of a rabies vaccination after being bitten by the rabid dog. The author also posted the elderly couple's vaccination records and hospital surveillance footage from the day, mentioning that he had noticed zombies abroad long before. These videos were often considered pranks abroad and were not taken seriously or dealt with. He expressed his frustration that despite knowing disaster was imminent, no one believed him, and instead, they called him crazy. So, he returned to his hometown alone, stockpiled a large amount of supplies, hoping to safely survive the apocalypse. This person is extraordinary. That was my first impression. Insightful, meticulous, and technically proficient enough to hack into hospital records to obtain vaccination records and surveillance footage. Thinking about it, there must be many such people, especially since some bloggers abroad had already been advising people to stock up on food and stay home under the guise of the COVID-19 pandemic, although they weren't as straightforward as this news hound. It also reminded me to be wary of animal transmission of the zombie virus, similar to how the virus in the movie Train to Busan originated from a dead deer. I checked the news hound's account. The IP was shown as being from a major coastal city, obviously altered to mislead others, because that city had fallen by dawn, and this post was published at 4 in the morning. Until 6, the comments were mocking and accusing the author of exploiting the situation for traffic. After 6, the comments were all about worshipping the genius and begging for supplies. The top comment was from an ID called Survivor's Tribe, with a picture comment showing a warehouse full of supplies. They even posted an address at a certain university in the city, calling for survivors to gather together to resist the zombies and rebuild their homeland. I shook my head. It was too juvenile, like children playing make-believe. Today is the first day of the zombie outbreak, and many people have survived. Not to mention how people are supposed to break through the zombies to reach their destination or calculate how long these supplies can sustain people. Once people gathered, who would lead them? How would order be re-established? A few students who only know theory couldn't possibly handle it, and who could guarantee that everyone would be as enthusiastic and selflessly dedicated as these students. After all, in places where the law does not reach, might makes right. It's a mistake for a group of naive students to possess and publicize such a wealth of resources. All I can do is silently pray for them. Nothing happened overnight, but it wasn't until the early morning that I heard my mom's voice saying that my dad had developed a fever, having witnessed a zombie attack and under immense stress. Even my dad, who is usually in good health, couldn't cope, especially since we hadn't stocked up on any medicine at home. My mom and I searched the entire basement, only to find a bunch of masks, disinfectant, diarrhea medicine, and a few boxes of herbal tonic. Due to the pandemic, it had been a long time since we last bought fever medicine. Not even cold medicine was available. My mom had no choice but to sit by the bed and repeatedly wipe my dad's body to cool him down. Fortunately, by dusk, his fever had subsided. I was both tired and hungry, but I had no appetite at all. I cooked some porridge for my dad, and my mom and I just settled for some frozen dumplings. That evening, Mom suggested she would watch over him for the first half of the night and I could take over for the second half. I initially disagreed. Staying up all night for several days in a row was normal for me when rushing work projects, so staying up for 2 nights was nothing. However, Mom strongly objected. When you're at work, I don't interfere, but when you're at home, you have to listen to me. How can you ruin your health, being a young lady? Besides, your dad is sick, and if anything happens, we would still need you to handle it. Although I haven't been very healthy these past few years, missing a few hours of sleep won't kill me. I've warmed some milk for you. It's by your bedside. Go drink it and sleep. Unable to argue with her, I went back to my room to sleep, but once I closed the door, I couldn't stop my tears from flowing. Throughout these years of working alone away from home, I've been frustrated with my mom for only being concerned about my marriage. I always held a grudge at work, wanting to prove to my mom that I could do well without getting married or relying on a man, but I had ignored my parents' feelings. They treated my cousins well simply because they didn't want me to be alone after they were gone. Others only see the designer bags I bought or the deals I closed, but only my parents worried about how many nights I stayed up and how much trouble I faced from clients. They were the ones concerned about whether I was being bullied, whether I had enough to eat or warm clothes to wear. I tried hard to hold back my tears, obediently drank the milk, and went to sleep. My dad's illness made me realize how important it is to maintain a healthy body. We didn't have medicine. We couldn't afford to get sick. It looks like I need to make a fitness plan tomorrow. With these thoughts, I fell into a deep sleep. I woke up at 7 in the morning, springing out of bed like a coil. After quickly freshening up and opening the door, I saw that my dad was already up and had prepared breakfast with Mom. Come on, get up. Dad made breakfast today. Come and have some. I obediently sat at the dining table, noticing that although Dad still looked a bit frail, he was in good spirits. Dad, how are you feeling? Why don't you rest a bit more? Mom, weren't you supposed to wake me up for my shift? It's okay, your dad is better now. I'll go to sleep in a bit. I promise not to be a burden. Today, you take the morning shift, and let your dad take the afternoon shift. But I think we don't need to keep watch all night. It's too exhausting in the long run. I just went up to the roof to check, and zombies only appear near the main road in our village. Our house is still safe for now. Plus, our surveillance cameras have an alarm function, don't they? We can just sleep with our phones on, and if zombies approach, we'll know. I thought about it, but still felt it wasn't enough. Just like locks on the doors, surveillance is meant to deter honest people, not the dishonest ones. Right now, I'm not afraid of zombies. Mom, did anyone see you hoarding all that food back then? Well, I don't think so. You know, the owner of the grain and oil store down the street has been friends with your dad for over a decade. I bought so much online this time, worried that it might be awkward if the owner saw, so I covered everything with a tarp and pulled it back. If anyone asks, we say it's fertilizer for the orchard. I don't think anyone noticed. It's reasonable to be worried. It's always better to be cautious just in case, but you don't need to work all night. I'll take over at 3 o'clock. From the afternoon to early morning, we'll switch shifts periodically. That's settled. With Dad being firm, I had no choice but to agree. After breakfast, I urged my parents to rest and sat in front of the surveillance system to reopen the post I saw the other night. The author, Newshound, hadn't replied yet, but the popular comment under Survivor Tribe was quite lively. The comments were mostly accusations and curses. It seemed that people really did follow the address, only to be turned away at the door and have all their supplies taken. Someone even mentioned that his girlfriend was allowed in, but he wasn't, and he was angrily questioning why. It looked like some people had managed to get in first, and maybe the original group of students had been taken over by them. Who knows if those now in the school are human or something else. I was going to comment to remind everyone, but then I thought better of it. The more you say, the more mistakes you make. Some people can even hack the medical system, so they might be able to see my home situation through surveillance. They would definitely see that we've bought a lot of supplies. It's better to keep a low profile and protect ourselves wisely. 14. As noon approached, my parents got up and started cooking lunch in the kitchen. Suddenly, I smelled smoke. I couldn't see anything on the surveillance, so I cautiously pulled back the curtain to look, and it seemed like the village was on fire, with thick smoke and flames reaching the sky. I rushed to the third floor and, using the parapet and solar panels for cover, crouched down to look. Outside, it was the old mute man's house in the village center. A wooden structure, small building from the late Qing dynasty, typical of that area. Here, with our subtropical monsoon climate, winters are mild and dry, and the fire, fueled by the wind, grew fiercer, drawing zombies towards its center. I could hear many cries for help, but the distance was too great to see clearly. I could only be thankful that we were upwind, safe from the fire's reach. Then Dad came up too, holding a pair of binoculars. I had bought them in my freshman year when I joined the birdwatching society, economizing to afford them, but I had a falling out with a senior in the society and quit, tossing the binoculars away in anger. Seeing my puzzled look, Dad explained, I was about to throw them away, but your mom found them while throwing out the trash and thought they were toy binoculars. They looked quite new, so she planned to keep them to give to your cousin's son to play with. I later saw them in the storeroom and picked them up. Seeing how upset you were, I didn't tell you. I never thought they'd come in handy today. I took the binoculars, adjusted them, and saw someone rush out from the alley behind the old mute man's house. The person, with blonde hair, was skinny and ragged, holding a blood-stained machete that still gleamed silver, though it was unclear whether the blood was from a human or a zombie. The blonde pulled out a small speaker from his pocket, turned it on, threw it on the ground, and walked away without looking back, leaving the speaker flashing colorful lights on the ground. This blonde seemed familiar, but I couldn't recall where I had seen him before. 15. However, with all the commotion, the zombies in the village had all gathered in the center, making our position on the outskirts even safer. But this would definitely lead to an exponential increase in the number of zombies in the village. The thick smoke didn't enter the respiratory tract, but it could still suffocate a person. In the center of the village, those who survived either suffocated, were devoured, or turned into zombies. Thus, it was only a matter of time before zombies spread to the vicinity of my home. I handed the binoculars to my dad with a worried heart, and he recognized the blonde guy right away. That's the notorious troublemaker from the next village. He dropped out of school around the age of 15 or 16 and always tagged along behind Hunter. Once my dad mentioned it, I remembered the guy. He was 2 grades above me, famous throughout the school for breaking a classmate's ribs. I remembered him because he almost raped my desk mate. The blonde guy and my desk mate came from the same village. She was an art student who transferred back from the city because of the middle school exams and needed to return to her registered residence, so she transferred back in the 2nd semester of 8th grade. Our middle school was a boarding school, and we had weekends off. She would first go to her grandmother's house on the weekends, return to the city on Saturday, and come back to school on Sunday afternoon. That time, because her uncle's birthday was on a Friday, her father and brother came back early to pick her up. While passing by the village temple, they saw her backpack. Worried, they got out of the car and after searching, they found that the beast had tied up my desk mate. At that time, my desk mate's grandmother, not having seen her come home, came to ask if her granddaughter was at my place. I went out with her to look for her, which is how I came to know about these things, because the blonde guy was a minor and it was attempted crime. He received a light sentence. Later, My desk mate transferred schools and even moved her household registration to her grandmother's place. The blonde guy's father pulled some strings and had him sent to a psychiatric hospital, although many years have passed. That fierce face still haunted me in my nightmares for several days. The figure of the blonde guy gradually merged with the person in my memories. Oh no, if the blonde guy is here, then Hunter must have come back too. Indeed, a small car took advantage of the gap when the zombies gathered in the village center and swiftly drove up the muddy road, stopping in front of Hugo's house. Hunter and the blonde guy stepped out from the driver and passenger seats, followed by two unfamiliar men and a little girl from the back seat. The girl looked to be about 14 or 15, wearing a shiny pink hairpin and a princess dress, carrying a matching pink suitcase, but draped in a men's jacket. The girl seemed quite lively, hopping around the four of them. The blonde guy said to the girl, "Laurel, see, I told you Hunter wouldn't leave us behind." Then he affectionately kissed her on the cheek, indicating a close relationship between the two. However, the two other guys behind them, seemingly jealous, kept holding the girl's hand. Is this what young girls are into these days? But given the current situation, it seems the zombies outside blocked Hunter's path, so the blonde guy went to set a fire to distract the zombies. If it were me, I'd probably try to lure the zombies away too, but why start a fire in someone's house when there's so much straw around the village that could be burned? Hunter casually walked to Hugo's door, knocking and calling for his parents to open it. Hugo and his wife were naturally thrilled to see their son and hurriedly welcomed them inside. However, before entering, Hunter disdainfully glanced at his own home's barely 1 meter tall wall, then turned back and pensively stared at our house. My heart sank. Hunter, I don't provoke others unless provoked, but if provoked, I will certainly retaliate. In this apocalypse, even a rabbit will bite when cornered. I hope you don't seek your own demise. I went back to the second floor with my dad and told them Hunter had returned, bringing 3 young men with him. Given the look Hunter gave before entering his house, I had a feeling he had plans for our house, especially since the solar panels on our rooftop were highly valuable in these end times. Thinking it over, I felt it was best to prepare early. While discussing, my mom cheerily brought up a cardboard box filled with little chicks. She found them in the orchard where some hen had made a nest and laid a batch of eggs, which attracted a bunch of other hens to lay their eggs there too. Mom returned the unfertilized eggs to Aunt Six, who raised chickens, but kept a dozen fertilized ones. My mom, though skilled at raising chickens, was a novice at incubating eggs found in the wild. We didn't have high hopes initially, so Dad just set up an incandescent light over the eggs and occasionally flipped them without paying much further attention, leaving them in a corner of the kitchen. It was only today when I heard the chirping sounds that I remembered about the eggs. Seeing my parents happily discussing how to care for the chicks, my mood lightened significantly. I wished these simple, warm moments could last forever, but we still had to face reality. Hugo's house is only 1 story and sits lower than ours. From his roof, looking towards our yard, you can only see the fruit trees, not even the fish pond that's 1 meter high. However, from our place, not only can we see Hugo's entire property, we even have a camera pointed directly at his front door, adjusted just so he wouldn't notice. It's a pity we can't hear inside his house. If we could listen in on their conversations and understand their plans, we could be better prepared. After lunch, I went back to sleep. Given that I saw Hunter loading up his car with plenty of supplies, and with utilities still running, a young girl and his elderly parents with him, from what I know of him, he's probably busy enjoying himself and won't be bothering us for now. Someone who's spent a lifetime sneaking around and has been in jail surely knows how to handle a reinforced door and an electrified fence. We're safe until he figures out how to bypass those. I woke up at 7 p.m. The fire in the village had died down, suggesting the wooden houses had burned down, and the concrete ones, lacking flammable exteriors, had stopped the fire from spreading. That's when I noticed the phone lines were down and the electricity was out, possibly due to the afternoon fire damaging the wires. Dad switched on the solar panels. Thankfully, winters here in Lingnan aren't too harsh, and we only needed to keep the freezer, fridge, and the grid powered. I grabbed an outdoor battery, typically used by Dad in the orchard, but now repurposed for heating my bath water. Apparently, transitioning from luxury to simplicity is much harder than the reverse. I just can't stand cold showers anymore. After my shower, I saw Mom talking to Dad in front of the surveillance screen. It's such a sin. That little girl is only a few years old. These bastards have no fear of divine retribution. What happened, Mom? What divine Retribution, it turns out that the village water supply was cut off earlier, and while Mom sneaked out to the garden, she overheard Mrs. Hugo and the girl coming out to draw water. The Hugos have a well in their yard, and though there was a power outage, they still had a hand-pumped water extractor, a common fixture in our area. Unfortunately, their hand pump hadn't been used in a long time, and Mrs. Hugo made the girl try to operate the rusty pump. The girl, lacking the strength, struggled, and Mrs. Hugo, lowering her voice, began to scold her harshly. At first, the girls softly objected, but that only made Mrs. Hugo angrier, and soon there were sounds of slaps followed by the girls' soft crying. Mom sighed deeply. When I first married your dad, Hugo was only a few months old. When you were born, he used to follow me around asking when you'd start calling him uncle. No matter how many wrongs he's done over the years, and no matter how angry I've been, I've always hoped he'd settle down and straighten out his life. Now, I just hope God takes him away. He's ruined a little girl's life. Upon hearing this, alarms went off in my head. Mom hadn't seen the girl getting out of the car that day, but Dad and I exchanged knowing looks, and he immediately started consoling Mom quietly while I decided to speak up. Mom, let me put things into perspective. If there hadn't been a zombie outbreak, students wouldn't be on holiday yet, right? Our nearby schools are mostly boarding schools, releasing students for a break either weekly or monthly. The girl was wearing a dress from a niche foreign brand, inexpensive but hard to come by. I've only seen it once on a client's daughter, and her handbag was from the same series. What does that tell us? What does that show? It shows that this little girl comes from a good family and that she sneaked out on her own. She's either skipping school or running away from home. I concluded, if she was abducted from school or on her way to or from school, she should be wearing a uniform. Why would she be dressed in a beautiful princess dress, carrying a lovely bag, and wearing a pretty hair clip? That's clearly an outfit for a date. If I'm not mistaken, one of them, maybe Hunter, met this girl online. How else could a girl from her background come into contact with someone like Hunter? They gained her trust, and she willingly went with them. Is this true? How could this little girl trust strangers so easily? Her parents must be so worried. Mom was clearly putting herself in the situation, so I asked at the right moment, Mom, what would you do if I, at the age of 14 or 15, stopped attending school and ran off with a man carrying my bags? You dare, and I'll break your legs and never let you through this door again. I'd say it's like raising a thankless child. After all, she was deceived. Mom, do you remember when I impulsively applied for a QQ account in middle school and someone messaged me to hang out? Did I decisively block and delete them? And even turned it into a joke to tell you. I took a sip of tea. Dad's tea-making skills are getting better. Actually, at 14 or 15, one already has a clear sense of judgment. Teachers at school also constantly warn everyone not to trust so-called friends online easily. I didn't expect to see this kind of thing happening today. This little girl comes from a wealthy family. She isn't lacking material things. Just look at her dress. It's more expensive than all four of Hunter's outfits put together. To put it bluntly, even though she knew these four were no good and poor, she still followed Hunter without looking back. Why feel sympathy for such a girl? Besides, if this girl had the courage to go with Hunter and his group, it shows she's not exactly innocent. Maybe she's enjoying the feeling of being treated like a queen. To be honest, if four men showed interest in me at the same time, appealing to my vanity, I might also lose my head and run off with them. However, Hunter and Yellow Hair don't qualify as men, they are more like beasts. So, Mom, don't be fooled by her. This might be a scheme from the other side, trying to make you pity that little girl. Watch, in a few days, that little girl will come crying for help, tricking you into letting her in, and then she'll collaborate with Hunter to swindle our house and possessions. Seeing Mom's shocked and incredulous face, I continued, do you think my middle school desk mate transferred just because her grandmother lives in a province famous for arts exams? It was because a jealous classmate spread rumors about her, leading other girls to ostracize her. Girls today are very cunning. You've dealt with deceitful traitors all your life. Don't let this little girl capsize us in a ditch. Although my comments were malicious speculations, school violence is real, and my desk mate really did transfer. For now, as long as I can keep my mom convinced, that's enough. It's all a ruse. The tears of that little girl, I've seen them all before. Seeing Mom nod solemnly, I finally felt relieved. Turning around, I saw Dad had partially opened the curtains and was using binoculars to look towards the village center. After a long moment, he turned back with a sigh. I took the binoculars and looked too. A scene of ruins, the remaining flames casting shadows of wandering zombies. It's all gone, nothing left. The mute old man had just had his adopted son come back from finishing his college internship, and 6 auntie living next to the mute old man. Her daughter and grandchild were staying at her mother's house. If the fire hadn't started, I could still deceive myself, thinking that everyone else was alive and well like us. So many years of neighbors, we used to see each other every day. I was also filled with mixed emotions, but still spoke up to comfort my parents, then sent them back to sleep. Late at night, I was playing a game on my phone when Hugo, as expected, stirred up trouble. The young girl, not even wearing a jacket, grabbed her luggage and headed out the door, but unfortunately, she was caught before she could even reach the gate and was dragged back. Don't blame me for being heartless. After all, in the company, I have personally sent away dozens of young interns fresh out of school. If this had happened 3 years ago, I might have been moved by someone else's tears. But now my heart has become as cold and hard as the stone lions at the entrance of a bank in winter. Throughout the night, aside from Hugo's feigned distress act, only 2 or 3 zombies were lured over by the neighborhood cats. After the cats left, the zombies disappeared too. In the morning, when my dad came over to take over, I told him to keep a special eye on Hugo before I went to catch up on some sleep. Thus, we lived in peace until the 6th day after the zombie outbreak, which also happened to be the last day of the calendar year. Tonight was New Year's Eve. Besides Hugo occasionally making his presence felt, the frequency of zombie appearances in our vicinity had increased. Luckily, always diverted by the stray cats, our family had adapted to this post-apocalyptic life. My mom tended chickens and grew vegetables daily, and since my dad had fixed an old radio, he spent his days tinkering with whatever he could find. Like the sewing machine that came as part of my mom's dowry, this peaceful scene was disrupted at dusk by a brilliant sunset, so stunningly beautiful that I took many photos with my camera. Hugo's girl showed up at our doorstep, her clothes tattered and torn. Still, she came. These days, without water, electricity, or internet, it's surprising Hunter lasted this long. Is anyone there? Please, I need help. They tricked me. Please, save me. Open the door. I managed to escape after getting them drunk today. Please help me. Once they sober up, I'm done for. At that moment, our family was calmly eating dinner upstairs. You need a full stomach to fight. The surveillance clearly captured the girl's figure, but despite her hoarsely shouting outside, we paid her no heed. Half an hour later, we had finished our dinner, and the girl, unable to wait any longer, picked up a stone and threw it at the window, but it didn't even leave a scratch. Frustrated, she turned and left. Not long after, Hugo's window opened, and several people stood there. I cracked open a window on the 2nd floor and faintly heard some voices. Mom and Dad, are you sure the Kendall's family still has a lot of supplies? Laurel has been crying at their door for a long time, but no one has come out. Hunter asked. That should be right. Last week I saw Grayson driving a small truck full of parcels back home. No mistake. From last month the Kendall's couple has been continuously buying a lot of stuff, including grains and oil. They even said it was fertilizer. Why would they bring fertilizer back home instead of taking it to the fields? I just happened to pass by their house when I went to dig onions, and oh, it was all food and supplies. Their daughter also came back, her car packed with expensive snacks from the supermarket. They have electricity again. It must be that girl who spilled the beans. Otherwise, given the character of the Kendall's couple, how could they not come out to open the door? What are you talking about, you old hag? The girl cursed loudly. I'm telling you, if it wasn't because you're Hunter's mother, do you think I would tolerate your baseless slander? The rest of the conversation was highly inappropriate, and I stopped listening as it wouldn't pass moderation. The argument grew louder and even attracted 2 zombies, which Hunter, annoyed, dealt with a slap each. TSK, hitting his own mother. Hunter isn't afraid of being struck by lightning. However, the noise did die down, and the zombies had already climbed over Hugo's low courtyard wall. We were almost inside the house. In my heart, I was silently urging, bite him to death, eat him, and then I won't have to live in constant fear. Unfortunately, at the last second, a fruit knife was thrust straight out of the window, stabbing right through the zombie's eye. It was Blondie, and then his 2 minions also came out, armed with a hoe and a shovel, and killed the other zombie. My mother saw this, gasped softly, and couldn't bear to watch anymore. Even though I knew these were zombies, they still looked human, and seeing how efficiently Blondie and his crew took them down, I couldn't help but feel a sinking feeling in my heart. It seems the good die young and the wicked live forever. With their level of combat ability, how could I ever compete with them? Meanwhile, Hunter strutted out confidently, stepping on the courtyard wall and shouting to us, "Grayson, I know you're home, and I mean no harm. Now, within miles, your place is the only one with electricity and food. You wouldn't want to see us starve, right?" With that, he reached towards his waist and placed something on the wall. The man had actually brought back a gun, and to prove his point, he fired it into the air. "How about that, Grayson? I put quite some effort into this." "Not bad, huh? We're all neighbors here. I don't want to spill blood, so give me 10 minutes to open the door and let me in, or it won't be so polite when I let myself in." As soon as he finished speaking, Blondie drove their car to the base of the courtyard wall, and his two followers brought out an aluminum ladder wrapped in layers of cardboard. Hunter climbed onto the roof of the car, looking proudly over the courtyard, and commented, "Oh, you've even planted some vegetables. Grayson, don't be scared. I've cut countless power grids in Southeast Asia. We're experienced in this." Old Mrs. Hugo also came out to encourage. "Right, son, hurry and cut it. Why should they indulge while we barely have any rice left to cook?" The young girl climbed onto the car roof and cooed at Hunter. "Hunter, if they have electricity, they must have hot water. Everyone here hasn't bathed in a long time and stink. Hurry, cut the line so they can have a decent shower." Inside the house, we were frantic. Hunter had been planning to wrap the ladder these past few days. No wonder he wasn't in a rush even though he had a gun. I had thought that since they had a ladder and we had pitchforks, if they dared to cut it, we would strike them down. If worst comes to worst, I still had Molotov cocktails, though I hadn't tested them and was unsure, but now, we might be shot like. Seize the moment we showed our heads. What should we do, Kendall? Are we really going to hand over the house just like that? This is the lifelong effort of your father and me. I can't bear to let it go. My mom cried. I'm afraid even if we willingly give up the house, he won't spare us. He's a thankless wretch. He abuses even his parents who treated him like an emperor. He won't let us off easy." My dad took a deep breath. "If it comes down to it, we'll fight to the death. It's either them or us now." Tears and sobs. My mom said, "As long as we're together, even if we die, we won't be alone on the road." Mom and Dad, what are you talking about? Things haven't gotten that bad yet. Let me think. Outside, due to Hunter's loud shouting, a few more zombies were drawn to the scene, but without exception, they were all killed by the three blonde men. My location is too remote. It would be great if more zombies could show up. Suddenly, an idea struck me, and I asked my mom to bring over the raw meat and the leftovers from tonight's dinner from the fridge. Then, I turned on the surveillance speaker and microphone and said to Hunter, "Don't be rash. Let's talk this through. The electric fence is working fine. Cutting it won't give you peace of mind if you decide to move in. You can have the house if you want it. It's just been renovated and it's still missing some small items. I'm not comfortable living here anyway." Hunter laughed even more wildly. "Always so sensible. It wasn't for nothing that I followed and protected you every day when you were in school. But why should I believe that you just hand over the house to me?" "Humph, protected me. It was clear you had ulterior motives, and now you want my house. Dream on. Look, I'm just a woman, and both my parents are ill. We have no ability to resist. What's there to worry about? Let's do this. I'll cut the power to the electric fence. Could you give me a little more time to gather some medicine for my parents' blood pressure? Our family doesn't have much, but we do have some meat stored. I'll lower it from the window for you guys to eat first." Speaking of which, I lowered the meat from the window using the cotton thread my mom uses for sewing. The electricity has been out for so many days. Hugo must have finished all his stored meat by now. Seeing the meat I lowered, Mrs. Jean couldn't help but come over to take some first, all smiles. "Oh my, I always said the old Kendall's family isn't short of good stuff. My dear son, let's stew some meat for dinner tonight." "Oh dear, we're out of gas at home. Old man, come start the fire." Hunter didn't care about the meat. He gestured to the blonde-haired man to check the electric fence, and after confirming the power was cut, he looked up and spoke to me as if granting a favor. 20 minutes. Don't take any food or drinks with you." Seeing this, I quickly promised to only take my parents' blood pressure medicine and a few clothes, nothing else. I also dropped down some snacks and beer, peanuts, dried little fish, dried squid, all sold loosely and each bag weighing over a pound, which I bought for snacking while watching dramas. After stabilizing Hunter, I moved to the window facing the orchard and dumped all of today's leftovers out. My parents didn't understand what I was doing, only asking me if it was time to pack up. No need to pack. He can't even get into our yard. Trust me, Mom and Dad. I returned to the surveillance monitor and saw Hunter had already gone back into Hugo's yard. It seems they had observed over the past few days that not many zombies appeared in this area, and the few that usually roamed around had been killed by them, so they boldly set up a table in the yard and started drinking. Young girls sat on Hunter's lap, pouring him wine while joking with the other three. The world truly has gone downhill. Seeing this, I dropped 2 more bottles of vodka for them. They chatted and drank merrily, even setting up a fire to keep warm. The atmosphere was lively, and their talk became unguarded. I overheard them saying that they had initially planned to target the survivors' university, but were too slow and got beaten to it. The other party had guns, and although reluctant to give up, Hunter sneaked in and stole a gun to bring back. Hearing from his own parents that my family had stored plenty of good things, he took a risk and came back, managing to rob quite a few supplies with the gun in hand. Now, these brothers had shared hardships and riches alike. The only downside was having just one woman with them wasn't enough. Now with goods in hand, although they couldn't become kings overnight, isn't it enough to be the emperor of your own little realm? If so, you might as well have a whole palace with many courtyards. They burst into laughter, which made the young girl act coquettishly and throw a tantrum again, but I always felt his gaze on me. Humph, I'll let you daydream all you want today. Sure enough, it got dark in just a few minutes, and even Hunter, who was enjoying his drink, realized something was off. Countless feral cats had surrounded Hugo's yard. Not only were these cats unusually large, but their eyes were eerily white, showing no pupils at all. Where did all these cats come from? When it gets dark, shouldn't cats' eyes glow? Why can't I see anything in these cats' eyes? The young girl was so frightened that she hid behind Hunter, her face pale. Hunter instantly realized it was a trap I had set. He quickly threw the snacks from the table far away, and the feral cats rushed after them. Hunter casually grabbed a brightly burning stick from the fire for light and called for his friends to come and cut the electric fence. At that moment, I fiercely dumped several buckets of blood and partially thawed meat from the upstairs window, drenching them thoroughly and making them shiver from the cold. Go on, cut it. See if you aren't just a wooden doll unaffected by electricity. My electric fence is specially charged with high voltage. Only those unafraid of death would dare cut it, I shouted loudly. Hunter hesitated after all, turning back and gesturing for the young girl to do the cutting. The girl was hesitant. Hunter, I'm scared. I've never cut before, and I don't have the strength. I can't do it well. Before she could finish, Hunter slapped her. Just cut it. Stop the nonsense. The girl reluctantly climbed the ladder, and just as I poured another bucket of blood, her scream echoed. Hunter couldn't stand it anymore and turned back to go inside the house to fetch 2 plastic bags to cover his hands. He smirked at me triumphantly. Go ahead, splash more if you can. Let's see how much more you have to splash. I indeed had no more blood to splash. My mom had wanted to buy a fridge with a quick thaw feature which my dad had mockingly deemed useless. Now, it turned out that Mom was always right. I had used up all the meat in the fridge's fresh keeping layer tonight, but I had achieved my goal. No need to splash anymore, I said, smiling even more smugly than Hunter. Turn around and look around, dear uncle. See whether your life is more important or cutting through my little electric fence. Hunter turned around and saw a dense crowd of zombies approaching him. Indeed, the wild cats were just a setup. What I was waiting for was this moment when the zombies besieged the city. I had already been clever when I started to lower the frozen meat, tearing a large hole in the plastic bag and lowering it very slowly. The blood had already dripped everywhere. The wild cats, which I had been feeding these past few days, were initially just to lead the zombies away. Later, these cats almost guarded downstairs every day, so I purposefully gave Hunter those snacks, like dried small fish with a strong smell. Cats, with their sensitive noses, would surely follow the scent. Hunter realized this and threw the snacks out towards the village. Our house, backed by the mountains, where people habitually do not throw trash behind their own homes but towards the open area in front. As the cats ran off and fought over the small fish, the noise from so many cats fighting, especially since they had mutated. After reading an article on News Dog, I had been paying close attention to the animals around. After the first night the wild cat helped me lead away the zombies, I noticed that the cat had grown bigger, not only taller and stronger, but it also fought more fiercely. By then, I knew. This cat had been infected with the zombie virus, whether it was scratched by a zombie or had eaten the rotten flesh of a zombie. Once one cat mutated, the whole group mutated, and their combat power surged impressively. The noise from the fighting alone was not enough to attract so many zombies, so I added several more buckets of blood. The thick smell of blood, in addition to deliberately provoking Hunter and causing him to speak loudly, they were practically asking for trouble by lighting a fire. In the yard, of course the zombies would come after them. I had the advantage of being in a high-rise. He did not. I was curious to see how they would handle the situation and whether they could fend off the horde of zombies. I closed the window and watched the spectacle unfold, observing a group of people as they fought off the zombies while retreating into the courtyard. At that moment, Hugo and his wife came out with some stewed meat to call their obedient son for dinner. Upon seeing the swarm of zombies, both were petrified, standing frozen in shock. Hunter, seeing his way home blocked by his parents, didn't think twice before dragging his elderly parents out. The stewed meat scattered all over the ground as he hurried inside. Blondie and two others quickly followed him in, and then the door slammed shut with a heavy thud. Outside, Hugo and his wife, still in shock, along with a young girl who was a step too slow, panicked and began banging on the door. "Open the door, son, your dad and I haven't gotten inside yet. Hurry up and open the door. Hunter, don't leave me behind. You promised I'd be your favorite." The cries from Hugo's yard didn't last long before the zombies devoured the three of them. The gruesome scene, illuminated by the firelight, was horrifying, and I couldn't help but run to the bathroom to throw up. But maybe it was for the best. If my longtime neighbors had turned into zombies, I'm not sure I could have brought myself to fight them. The zombie horde was attacking Hugo, but Hunter, I couldn't let him go. I had to deal with him tonight. Otherwise, once he recovered, it would be our family who would suffer. Up on the third floor, my parents had already brought up 2 large barrels of liquor, and my dad had placed the water inlet hose of his car wash machine into a barrel. Without hesitation, I plugged in the car wash machine, and high-proof alcohol sprayed from the pressure washer onto the group of zombies around Hugo. Now, a new problem arose. I wasn't sure if the smell of the alcohol would affect the zombies' sense of smell. I only knew that the noise from the car wash machine had already drawn the attention of the zombie horde. They collectively looked up at the building. I haven't seen such order even when I was doing military stance in university. Taking a cue, I grabbed a middle school English language teaching boombox with a card insert, turned the volume up to the maximum, tied a plastic bag as a makeshift parachute, and tossed it lightly, landing it perfectly on Hugo's rooftop. The sound from the small speaker indeed diverted the zombies' attention back to Hugo. I then picked up a water scoop and splashed out all the liquor until both barrels were empty. Returning to the second floor, as I wondered how long Hugo's old doors and windows would hold up, Hunter opened a side window, threw someone out, and quickly closed it again. It was one of his nameless henchmen, whose throat had been slit, staining a large area of the floor with blood. I watched as he struggled to crawl outside, but unfortunately, there were too many zombies. A clang sound came as another person was thrown out of a different window. The zombies were drawn to both sides, and Hunter, along with Blondie, shirtless, rushed out of the house, apparently with no time to change their blood-stained clothes. "Damn it, we have a long day ahead," he said as he dove into the car, ready to escape. I couldn't let him get away. That was the only thought in my mind. Hunter could even use his parents as scapegoats, and since I had already made an enemy of him tonight, I absolutely couldn't let him escape. Later, everything seemed a bit hazy. My only thought was that Hunter must not escape alive. My hand touched a cold bottle. Oh, it was a Molotov cocktail I had made. "Where's the lighter?" I remembered I had placed it on the windowsill. "Oh, here it is." I lit the Molotov cocktail and threw it at Hunter's car roof. The glass bottle shattered on impact, and the flames blazed up, thankfully not too far from where I had sprayed the liquor on their car earlier. It caught fire quickly. Not long after, with a loud bang, the car exploded. Turning around, I saw that Dad had also set the group of zombies on fire. It turned out that zombies really don't feel pain, even as their bodies were scorched black. They steadfastly searched around Hugo for the source of the sound emitting from a small speaker. Despite using 2 large barrels of high-proof alcohol, the fire didn't last long as the alcohol evaporated quickly. We extinguished the remaining flames with a high-pressure water hose from the 3rd floor, and by the time the fire was completely out, we could see the sunrise. A new day, a new year had arrived, and the biggest threat beside me had been eliminated. Ever since the apocalypse began, I'd been terrified. How was I, a physically weak woman, supposed to protect my parents from the savage zombies and ensure our survival until the nation was restored? I wasn't sure, and I was scared. So scared that I needed sleeping pills to sleep every night, so scared that I would hide under the covers and cry alone, but I always pretended to be nonchalant in front of my parents. Now, I'm no longer afraid. If anyone or any zombie tries to harm my family again, I won't hesitate. After the battle, we'd lost 2 large barrels of high-proof alcohol, some meat, and 3 large bags of snacks. The surveillance near Hugo and the electric grid on that wall were damaged by the fire, but Dad has fixed them, and they're back in operation. Casualty report. The enemy was completely wiped out. We had no casualties. It was a joyous occasion as it coincided with New Year's Day. I playfully asked Mom to cook something delicious, since zombies couldn't enter and there were no other survivors around. We could eat well and then catch up on some much-needed sleep. Mom happily agreed, while Dad went to the balcony, trembling as he pulled out a cigarette and called me over. Kendall, don't put on a brave front. If you're scared, just cry it out, like when you were little. Why don't you cry on Daddy's shoulder? I really regret sending you to boarding school when you were so young. If I hadn't been so stubborn and just kept my job at the factory, you wouldn't have had to suffer with me in the countryside. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably, and I sobbed on his shoulder just like I did when I felt wronged in kindergarten. I shared with him my grievances and fears, telling him that I was more afraid of losing them than being killed by zombies, so I have no regrets about what I did last night, and I told him that I'm no longer afraid. We need to keep living well together until the end of these dark times. Spin-off episode 1. Unknowingly, it had been 5 months since our family moved to the survivors' base. Standing up, I looked down at the bustling crowd below, still feeling a sense of unreality. Closing my eyes, all I could see were the times at home when we scrimped and saved, carefully rationing our food. After resolving the threat named Hunter, our family indeed had a worry-free period, but our food reserves were depleted by the 3rd year of the apocalypse. Fortunately, our chickens kept laying eggs. Luckily, we didn't eat much flour-based food, so the stockpiled flour was just enough to feed the chickens. My parents made full use of their skills, setting up several greenhouses in the yard to grow vegetables. However, since we had used up all the bought seeds and the germination rate of our own seeds had drastically decreased, we had to be careful with our vegetable consumption. Thankfully, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and corn still maintained their yield. 4 or 5 of our solar panels were also damaged, which made electricity usage tight. As for supplies, we were not short of daily necessities or water, but food was really becoming an issue. From the 2nd year of the apocalypse, the weather began to worsen, reaching as high as 45 degrees Celsius in summer, and dropping to minus 10 degrees Celsius in winter. Even with snowfall, summer was manageable. We could just move to the basement. Winter was truly harsh, as such low temperatures were very rare in our region, and we had to risk turning on the air conditioning. Fortunately, our air conditioner's external unit was installed in the basement, where the sound of the wind and snow covered the noise from the unit. What's worse is the long-term lack of communication with outsiders and the inability to receive any external information. Our family's mindset underwent a significant transformation. When the apocalypse first struck, we were filled with confidence, believing that the nation would swiftly resolve the crisis. Every morning, we would check for any sign of cell service restoration, and I'd use binoculars from the 3rd floor to see if any vehicles were still passing on the main road. However, as days turned into weeks, our once unwavering belief began to falter, eventually leading to complete disillusionment. I realized that this state of despair was not right, but felt powerless to change anything. Ultimately, as long as the zombies are not eradicated, we cannot return to our former lives. All I could do was dig out the computer and repeatedly watch downloaded TV shows with my parents to distract ourselves. Fortunately, at that time, the government began to fight back. Survival bases were established in several coastal cities. They even managed to temporarily restore mobile signals for brief periods, alerting us several times about impending zombie hordes. During these brief periods of signal restoration, we managed to make contact with a rescue team. The rescue team informed us that the survival bases already built were too far from us and advised against trying to reach them. A new survival base was being planned in a city not far from us. They told us to hold on for a year, after which it would be operational every 3 months. they would drop supplies by helicopter. Learning that things were moving in a positive direction, my parents and I shook off the gloom of food scarcity and regained our spirits. 9 months later, we received another call from Officer Jackson of the rescue team. He informed us that a massive zombie horde had been detected to our north. Calculations showed that our family's orchard and villa lay directly in the horde's path, and they would soon reach our village. The good news was that the new survival base was now operational, and a helicopter would soon arrive to evacuate us. Then, I watched as a swarm of helicopters arrived, bringing a large contingent of soldiers who buried countless landmines and explosives in our orchard and villa. Officer Jackson explained that the scale of this zombie horde was too large. Their beast-like instincts had detected living humans to the south. If left unchecked, the newly built survival base would surely be trampled into ruins by the relentless zombies, negating all the nation's previous efforts. Thus, the only option was to lay a heavy minefield in the horde's path, to reduce the number of zombies as much as possible. Even if they couldn't be completely eliminated. My parents, with tears in their eyes, firmly nodded their agreement when they heard that our home would be destroyed. I raised my camera and took the first family photo since the apocalypse began in front of our villa. Today, the house that sheltered us for 4 years would cease to exist. To say there was no sense of loss would be a lie, as the toughest months since the apocalypse began were spent here. Once the landmines were in place, we evacuated with the soldiers. Just after boarding the helicopter, I saw the zombie horde approaching, countless zombies, densely packed and staggering toward the back mountain. I had experienced several zombie hordes before, but we had never evacuated, due to the geographical advantage and confidence in the villa personally supervised by my father. Plus the smaller scale of previous hordes. From high above, the zombie horde looked like a plague of locusts, leaving barren devastation in its wake. Such a massive horde could overwhelm even the sturdiest of structures. As soon as the zombies entered the range of the back mountain, they were blown apart by the mines, the explosions relentless, audible even through headphones. Dust filled the air and the smell of gunpowder stung the eyes. Yet, the zombies fearlessly continued their relentless advance. The situation was as chilling as warriors heading to battle in the age of cold weapons. Fortunately, the hard work of one afternoon was not in vain. The scale of the zombie horde had been greatly reduced due to the explosion. However, the size was still considerable. So many mines and bombs only managed to reduce the number of zombies by 1/5. I met with my parents, and we were all so shocked that we were at a loss for words. Seeing our somber mood, a young soldier accompanying us started chatting with us to lighten the atmosphere. The young soldier looked youthful, his skin tanned dark by the sun, yet his facial features were sharp and well-defined, with bold brows and bright eyes. But once he spoke, one could tell his age was much greater than his appearance suggested. His voice through the earpiece was deep, resonant, and magnetic. Perhaps it was the hero filter, but I found it oddly comforting. Don't worry, our comrades ahead are already planting mines, and there are bombers on standby at the survival base. Our combat department has already calculated the path of the zombie horde and the number of mines needed. We absolutely won't let these zombies reach the survival base. I swear on my honor as a soldier, I will ensure the safety of our people, he said, saluting us. My parents and I couldn't help but laugh at this, explaining to him that we weren't scared or worried. It was just that it was our first time witnessing such a scene, and it was quite shocking. Once the conversation started, it couldn't be stopped. My parents, having hardly seen any living people recently, lost all their initial reserve from asking where the young brother was from to what breed his family dog was. Even after disembarking from the helicopter, the conversation didn't cease. I clearly saw the young soldier's relieved expression as he bid us goodbye. After arriving at the survival base, life became busy. The survival base had just been established, and besides our family, there were only a dozen other families, all military dependents. My parents happily resumed their farming life. Currently, at the entire survival base, only they were true farmers. The soldiers might manage to plant mines well, but farming was a tough task for them. Fortunately, the base was equipped with various agricultural vehicles and tools, and with a group of soldiers helping, my parents weren't too burdened. I took on the role of a guide at the base, responsible for introducing newcomers to the basic situation of the base. Despite being busy, it was very reassuring. I later met that young soldier, Leah, several more times. He was a squad leader in the rescue team. During one casual conversation, I learned that the news hound didn't make it to the end, Someone had exposed his real identity and looted his supplies. He didn't die at the hands of zombies but was driven to suicide by jumping off a building by his own compatriots. The survivor's university was also rescued by the military. According to Leah, when they arrived at the university, it had turned into a living hell. Young men were chained and forced to farm and raise pigs, and the elderly were simply pushed outside to fend for themselves. Even the younger children had to work, and any disobedience was met with beating. As for the women, their status was even worse. Barely clothed, the military executed the criminals in front of everyone and also sent psychologists to provide therapy. However, the memories of what had happened could never be erased. In the face of desperation, people struggled to survive. But once safety is assured, feelings of shame prevail, especially once it is confirmed that their family members are safe. Many still choose to end their lives. After hearing this, I felt down for several days. Leah specifically came to comfort me, sharing stories of a supermarket owner he met during a mission who selflessly helped his neighbors. Several families helped each other and supported one another through tough times. He also told me about a pregnant woman who, by chance, saved a doctor. Not only did the doctor successfully help her deliver her child, but he also saved her mother who suffered from high blood pressure. Perhaps this is just human nature. In harsh conditions, there's no time to dwell on sorrow. As long as I'm doing slightly better than others, I start to worry about their situations. Unable to bear even a hint of human suffering, I looked at Leah, noticing the dark circles under his eyes, and felt a pang of guilt. They were already tired from their mission, and yet he came to comfort me. I patted his shoulder, signaling that I understood and would pull myself together, and then told him to go rest. But Leah didn't move, looking as if he had something to say. I spoke before him, bringing up how we don't know when the apocalypse will end and reminding him to be cautious on his missions. To change the subject, Leah gave me a wry smile, said goodnight, and then turned to leave. As soon as he left, my smile fell. I knew what he was about to say. They had received orders to move to a new survival base next week. Once they left, they wouldn't return until the apocalypse was over. But I couldn't go with him. My parents had finally settled down. I couldn't drag them around anymore. No one can be sure of the unknown future. I wasn't sure if I could wait for him to return alive, and neither could he. If that's the case, why delay each other? When I got home, I unexpectedly found my shameless ex-boyfriend having a cozy chat over tea with my dad. Gregory was my high school classmate and a manager in one department of my company. Though we worked in different departments, he joined the company 3 years after me, and not long after, their department's manager retired. Despite being new, Gregory was young, ambitious, good-looking, and skilled, which quickly led to his promotion. Our relationship started simply because we were of similar age and from the same place. We kept our relationship secret. It was brief and, despite being in different departments, office romances were somewhat taboo, especially since we were both managers in key departments. Gregory planned to stay at the company for 2 more years to save enough for a house down payment before switching jobs, and then we could openly be together. But before we could even hold hands publicly, I returned from a business trip to find out he had started dating the boss's daughter. I wondered if there was some misunderstanding. We were both so busy with work trips, I barely had time to reply to messages, let alone date the boss's daughter. When I reached his office, his assistant told me he wasn't in today. I called him, and the boss's daughter answered. The boss's daughter had graduated this year and was supposed to intern in my department. However, after visiting the company and somehow noticing Gregory, she insisted on being transferred to his department, despite initially disagreeing due to concerns over his daughter's workload. The boss eventually gave in to her demands. I tried to keep my voice neutral. Isn't Manager Sue here? I brought back gifts for everyone from my trip and was checking on him since he's not in the office. Oh, it's nothing. We just came back from Hong Kong and are too tired to work today. And about the stuff you left with Gregory, please find time to take them back. I find it awkward to use someone else's things. Besides, since you and Gregory didn't really take your relationship to a substantial level, his being with me shouldn't really hurt you. With each word she said, my heart sank a little more. I forced myself to stay calm. It's just some kitchenware. Please, feel free to throw it away. Additionally, please relay a message to Manager Sue for me, needing a woman to break up for him. I really have no respect for him. I used to go out of my way to prepare meals for him because I knew he often worked overtime and would get stomach aches if he didn't eat properly. I would cook at his place during my lunch breaks when I wasn't too busy, then head back to work. Looking back, it really wasn't worth it. Eventually, it naturally led to my dismissal. After we broke up, I was indeed heartbroken and in a slump for a while, but I gradually came to terms with it. Then, as the apocalypse arrived, I didn't even have the time to think about it. I couldn't believe that jerk had the audacity to show up in front of me again. The first thing I said to him was, "How are you still not dead, you jerk?" That really startled my parents, and my dad even scolded me. "Kendall, where do you get off talking to guests like that? Go outside and think about what you've done." Wow, he was so mad he didn't even use my nickname. I just turned around and left. As I was leaving, I said, "This is the ex-boyfriend who ditched me to be with the big boss's daughter. Is there something wrong with what I said?" Indeed, the next second, Gregory was also kicked out by my dad. I crossed my arms and waited for him at the door. "Speak if you have something to say, fart if you need to," Gregory started, speaking in a way that just made you want to hit him. "Kendall, are you in a bad mood today? You seem very irritable." Hey, don't go. I have something serious to talk about." I stopped in my tracks. "One more useless word and I'll tie you up and throw you outside for the zombies." "Kendall, I'm sorry. I wronged you back then. I don't want to struggle anymore. It's too exhausting, constantly traveling and socializing day and night. I'm really tired, so I took a shortcut. I came here today to firstly apologize, and secondly to persuade you. You might not see it, but people close to us know you're stubborn and won't turn back until you hit a wall, and you have a strong sense of responsibility." "Cut the crap," I snapped. "Leah is really a good person. He also saved me. I stayed at another base for half a year, and when I heard they needed people here, I came to help. I didn't expect to run into him again. The other day I saw you two having lunch together in the cafeteria, and the way he looked at you was just like how I used to look at you." Gregory stepped forward, looked me in the eyes, and said earnestly, "Kendall, I was the one who made mistakes back then, not you. Don't let one setback hold you back forever. Both you and Leah are good people. You deserve his love, and he is worthy of you. Leah is not like me. I'm a hypocrite, but he is a real man. You do have some self-awareness." "I can't continue this conversation today. I get your point. You've said your piece. Now you better go." I waved him off and turned to walk away. It seems like he might have a point. Could it really be that, as Kendall, I'm doomed only to meet jerks? I refuse to believe that. I lost the bet last time, but this time, I'm betting on myself to win. I caught up to Leah, who hadn't gone far, panting, and asked him, "What were you about to say just now?" Leah, still not quite catching on, instinctively responded, "Would you like to be with me, wait for me for a few years?" "I'm willing." In the darkness, I could clearly see Leah's bright white teeth beneath her dark skin. Her smile so dazzling it almost blinded me. I was finally able to hold hands with the one I love in front of everyone. After Leah left, life at the base gradually got back on track, and good news kept coming. We had established 7 survival bases inland. Significant breakthroughs had also been made in the development of a vaccine. Finally, in August of the 7th year of the apocalypse, I saw on TV that the national leader officially announced that our country had overcome the disaster. The door lock turned, and Leah walked in. With tears in my eyes, I threw myself into his arms. The apocalypse was over, and it was time for us to start anew.